Thank you. Welcome everyone to the Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. In accordance with the provision of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice was hereby given that the Planning Board will be meeting this evening, Tuesday, July 12th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the meeting room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. Alternative public access to this meeting is provided via Zoom, which is an online video conferencing. This application will allow users to view the meeting and provide comments during allocated windows. To join, follow the web link that was provided in the agenda for tonight's meeting. We will be doing all votes via roll call because we do have one of our board members on Zoom. The meeting will be recorded for future rebroadcast by the Norfolk Community Television. For more information on getting connected, use the video conference features. Please visit the town's website. So let's begin. A here.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass Law Section 40A and the Norfolk Zoning Bylaws Section F9A18 that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 2nd at 7 p.m. in room 124 at Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. For Camden Coatings Incorporated, relative to a special permit application to allow a 48 by 168-inch building-mounted sign at 360 Main Street. The site is located in the C3 zoning district. Reference Assessor's Map 2, Block 6, Lot 3-1. Application and plans are available for public inspection on the Town Norfolk website or in the office at the Norfolk Planning Board during the hours of 9 to 6, Monday through Thursday.
Thank you, Eric.
We have representative remotely joining us.
Okay.
One second. You can join.
See Joe Meisner there, right?
Yep, Joe and.
Actually, I'm Bill Curry, and I'm here. I'm the general contractor for the project, and I'm representing Camden this evening. Dan Iannuzzi and Joe Meisen are both on vacation this week.
Okay. Welcome.
Big Bill. Big Bill.
So Betsy has put on the screen the.
One of the this is the rendering on the building,
Yep.
and there's a closer.
Yeah, so we have a detail on the sign, and then we have an elevation view showing where the sign's going to go.
And that is a larger image of the sign.
And the dimension of that?
The dimension of the sign is
168 inches wide, 48 inches high.
right.
There you go. All right.
Let me go back to the building image.
Right. Do you have where the sign's going to be placed, Betsy? Is it on the building?
Yes, if you can see that
Right there.
right there.
So is the sign going to be lit in any way?
There is no lighting on the sign.
Okay.
There's a wall pack just to the left of that, if you see it on the elevation, just
Yep.
for general illumination, but the sign itself is not illuminated.
Okay.
Rich, are there any specs on the limits of signs in this zone?
Yes, under the,
So this is what, 14 feet by
4 feet high.
4
So
feet?
it's 4 feet high by 14 feet long, so 56 square feet.
hold on, bear with me a second.
So I guess what I'm asking, is this size allowed in the bylaw, or is this a special permit type of thing?
It's a special permit.
Special permit.
So under
F9A18.
Yeah, sorry, correct. F9, A18, you do have the special permit authority to increase the size of the wall sign.
And what's the limit before special permit?
Yeah, 4 feet by, what was it, 8?
14.
14 feet long.
No, I'm saying in our bylaw, what is the sign?
It doesn't have a maximum, so it's a 48 square feet.
Is the maximum?
Right, and this is 56.
Okay.
And it doesn't show it on that drawing. On the next page, it does show it's a 1.5-inch aluminum backer panel, and then the PVC letters are adhered to that.
This actually building is, what the, well, let me clarify. So it's, so the special permit allows for 12 square feet allowed for each 10,000 square feet of building footprint to a maximum of 48 square feet. So the footprint of this building is what, 20,000 square feet?
Yes, it is.
So it actually could be 96 square feet.
Oh, no, you said a maximum of 48.
But that was for a 10,000 square foot footprint.
Oh, okay.
So,
So this is under the special permit criteria then?
correct, this is under special permit.
There you go.
So you have the authority to,
Are those letters individually placed on the backing, or are they just painted on?
They're individual PVC, they're 3/4-inch PVC letters, and then the logo is actually individual pieces as well. There's 3 different pieces for the logo.
Thank you.
so there's not a backing behind that, right?
So the white backing behind that, we have an aluminum tube steel frame with an ACM panel attached to the
Okay,
tube steel frame, and then the individual letters, PVC letters, adhered to the ACM backer.
I presume these are just for informational purposes, the corporate colors of Camden?
Yes, they are. Yeah, this is their logo.
These are the-
They recently changed their logo, and this matches their logo.
Okay.
Comments from the board?
It complies with the bylaw. I think it's a tasteful sign. I think it's a classier sign with the individual letters. I have no issues.
Agreed. I think it looks really good. I think the proportion to the size of the building is good as well.
Agreed. Okay.
If you want to,
Any,
public?
yeah, any comments from the public in the room or on the call? I see nothing. Are there any hands up, Betsy? I don't see any,
I
but,
don't see any either.
okay. All right, so we
Motion
looking
to,
for a motion to approve the special permit for,
well, first close the hearing.
I'm sorry.
Motion to
Yes.
close the public hearing for 360 Main Street.
And there is some, I haven't, okay. Well, yeah, tackle that motion first,
Right,
the hearing.
so do I have
So
a
moved.
second?
Oh,
You made the motion, right, John? So,
You can do
Gary?
roll call only because you have Chris.
right, so we will do a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Okay.
And what is your opinion, Melissa?
I agree with Chris.
For the decision.
Yeah. Should have a decision in front of you, draft decision?
Should be page
Present.
Condition. You get to page 3. Oh, she's on page 3.
Yeah, so bottom of page 1, Eric did mention on here that it says all members were present at the hearing, which is true. We just weren't
Remote and in present.
remote and in person.
Do we have to include that?
I don't think
so.
we haven't differentiated that.
Okay.
You're all here.
Okay, all right.
So you had two options. If you like it the way it is, you can just vote it as is with a condition. If you aren't particularly,
What's the condition, Rich?
so the condition is the sign shall be constructed in accordance with the designs presented to the planning board on submitted plans and discussed at the hearing of July 12th, 2022. If you want to, if you see necessity for another condition, or if that's adequate, or
I think that sounds adequate.
It's pretty explicit what we're approving.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a certain size of certain material on a certain spot of the building, so I'm okay.
yes, because what was submitted, the plans and specifications is what you're approving.
Yep.
And so it's a pretty good decision. I mean, you really wanted to tighten it, and I'm not suggesting you do. We could include it as an exhibit to it, but it's,
I don't think we need to do that.
I mean, we have the purpose in there. We're talking about the application. We're talking about the applicant. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what it is what we're looking at here.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm fine with the way it's written. Any other comments?
If not, someone wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the special permit as outlined in our packet.
So moved.
Modified to be decision number 2022-03.
Do you, Eric, you seconded, do you approve that modification?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we will do a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John? Aye. And the chair votes aye. So it is
You
unanimous.
could ask Melissa.
And
It's
Melissa,
just
what would you-
past practice.
Yes, and
I
what
would
would your
vote aye
vote?
as well.
All right. Excellent. All right, so then we'll,
Great, I have a decision
We'll have-
ready, and I'll have you sign it before you leave tonight.
Great,
all right,
That file
Thank you.
will be filed tomorrow.
perfect.
okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right.
And we are 30 seconds ahead of schedule,
Wow, fantastic.
so we will pause unless you want to do something quick, Rich. We got a minute.
I can't do anything that quick,
Okay.
sorry.
All right, all right.
Not when it comes to this stuff.
Meeting minutes, approval.
Letting in the people.
You're letting the people in, how's
All
that?
right, there we go. And you've got the next public hearing.
You can't.
This is these are the Betsy Particulars packet on Google Drive. Into your town.
So I'll circle back to your question about the height, because it's in the B1 outer. That's why it's a, it's a
Was I looking at the sign?
approval through the site plan approval process, because this parcel's outer,
That, if you want.
B1.
Okay.
When we get to,
Probably do. Do you have your Norfolk?
All right,
technically it doesn't rise a special permit, but it's through the site plan approval.
you let us know, Betsy, when you've let everyone in.
Has anybody contacted you?
Looks like we're good to go.
Okay. All right, so our next item of agenda is a public hearing at 7:15 for 117 Main Street. Eric will read the notice into the meeting.
Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass General Law, Section 48, that the Norfolk zoning bylaws, Section F11. A public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 12th, 2022 at 7:15 PM in room 124 at the Norfolk Town Hall, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass, relative to a site plan approval application for property located at 117 Main Street in Norfolk, Mass. The applicant, Town of Norfolk, is proposing to construct a new fire station to replace the existing fire station with associated parking, utility connections, and stormwater management systems. The applicant is also requesting a stormwater management permit, earth removal permit, special permits to allow parking in the front yard, lesser number of required parking spaces, increased building height, and to waive the Greenbelt conformance. Property is located in the B1 zoning district, reference Assessor's Map 14, Block 57, Lot 24. The application and plans are available for public inspection on the Town of Norfolk website or in the Norfolk Planning Board office during the hours 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Thursday.
Well, thank you, Eric. And who do we have here from?
So, Kevin Champagne, Chair of the Fire Station Building Committee. I'm joined by Ron Lamar, Head Architect for Doran Whittier, and Steve Kirby from Vertex Companies, the OPM.
Great, welcome, gentlemen.
So what we thought, we do have the plan here, and we'll display it for you all in the room and at home. And then with the assistance of Ron, we can, go through the plans, sheets and so forth as we go through the project. We do have, there he is, top of the middle screen. Phil Paris from Beta Group is here, virtually with us. We performed the peer review, so he's available as well as we go through the project. And so Ron, in terms of what plan would you want to start off in terms of?
I guess we can start off on drawing C100.
Okay.
So if that's okay, so C100 is basically the demolition plan, if you will, that shows you where the existing fire station is, which is bridge.
So bear with us. We want to get a little bit better clarity.
That one wasn't very good, so I'm just gonna try a different
Okay.
site plan.
We don't have any music or anything like that to entertain you between, sorry.
I can hum.
Well, while we're waiting, I know we did have one comment from the DPW. I'm not going to read it in right now, but when we get there,
Sure.
there was one comment about that, about the plantings, so.
Okay.
But that was it from him, as well as what Phil had done.
So I'll fill a little bit of airspace in terms of just what Betsy's got.
Yeah,
So
I
in
think
terms,
I got it, but it's
Oh.
still, it's not awesome.
Not
It's
awesome?
It's not an awesome quality, so my apologies on that. There's not much I
so
can do about
when you
that.
displayed it, was it better clarity before, do you recall?
I don't know if it's better clarity, actually.
You see what's there, do you recall?
Yeah, it might be.
Might be.
You want me to get that?
We might want to try, just, it's important, right?
Yep.
So let's
Yeah,
just see.
there's a lot of detail on these plan sheets.
A lot of
So what do you have?
So while we're dealing with the technical, we'll multitask. So in terms of the town of Norfolk has been before and applied to the zoning board of appeals for a special permit to reduce the buffer in terms of the parking, the access aisle, and driveway under B1 zoning district. And simultaneously, at the same time,
This is better.
yeah, that's much better quality, yeah. At the same time, they applied for a variance to the buffer, which I'll call, well, actually on the west side of the property, which abuts the church parking lot. We'll talk about, so the ZBA will be next week deliberating in terms of the decision for the reduction of the buffer. But from the public hearing and feedback, they were amenable to reducing that width of that buffer down to 30 feet, which coincides with your buffering through the site plan approval process. In terms of on the west side that abuts the church, the variance, we'll touch on that a little bit tonight about some options for consideration in terms of that might relieve the necessity for the variance in terms of that. So we'll get into that a little bit later as we go through that, but just in terms of, just to give it context, the background on it.
Is the variance still going forward?
So it will depend on discussion tonight. So there's some options maybe to work within some creative ideas to try to address this in a way which would not necessitate the variance. So the thought being the variance, they haven't deliberated, the ZBA. The objective would be to just continue it for now, let this unfold, and hopefully we have good resolution, and then the town can respectfully withdraw on the request for that variance.
What's the issue? You guys have a threat of an appeal? I hear?
No. No.
No, what?
The variance, in terms of the fundamentals of the variance, it's a hardship-based decision.
Well, I want to get to grasp, because I listened to your meeting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Right, and I agree. If there's a valid threat of an appeal, which is years, sounds like you really aren't going to move forward on that, I would guess, which really puts the onus here on the planning board, so I'm just seeing it backwards. So if that is true, then it just puts it more important on this board to try to come up with a consensus on some design. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's what Rich, during that meeting was, if there's opposition that decides to appeal it, we can pursue. And so the concept is to talk about those other options tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
And see what everybody thinks.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to quickly orient everybody, this is the existing fire station here in the middle of the page. The little square towards the south side of the building is their existing shed, and to the east is their existing trailer. So the idea here is that the existing shed will be demolished when we start construction. The station and the trailer will remain operational during construction, and then that'll be torn down at the end of construction. And the site work related to this area here will be completed at that time. So what you see here is also the property lines as they run around the site. There's existing septic on the south side of the building. As you all know, there's ledge in this southwestern corner of the site. The church that we just talked about is on the western edge of the site. And then the church also has a drainage swale installed along that property line. Sort of sits, some on the town property, some on the church property. The way that the deed reads for this utility easement is that it's a utility easement, and any construction on the town side just has to avoid the drainage structure. And that structure right now happens to be basically a gravel swale. And so that's what's there today. So moving forward, this is the proposed plan. And the proposed plan is to build a new fire station, which is here. The gray in the front of the station is a concrete apron for the fire trucks. And in the back of the station is a concrete apron for the fire trucks. You then transition from concrete to asphalt as you get onto the apron closest to the main street, and then obviously Main Street's paved. And then the same thing coming out of the back of the station, you're on concrete, you transition here from concrete to pavement, through the lot and onto Main Street. So one of the special permits that we're requesting is, you can see the parking here is on the side of the building as opposed to in the back of the building. Obviously, the reason for that is there's not a lot of space in the back of the building in order to do that with the septic system and so forth. And then the parking itself, in terms of location, it's mostly on the side of the building. It just, for what it's worth, we have presented this to the Design Review Board, and they were in favor of the location of the parking. And just as a continuation of the special permits we're seeking is also a reduction in parking. I believe we can look at this two different ways. The last time we met informally, we talked about if we use the mixed use application of the bylaw, then we would ask for a reduction from that. It goes from about 60 spaces down to the 31 that are shown. And if we use the municipal building, not for recreation, so this is a municipal building and it is not for recreation. One example is used as the public library in that bylaw section. And what that says is you need one parking space for every 300 square feet of public space. And so that would mean we need 25 spaces, and we have the 31. So just so y'all know, the 31 number comes from the fire chief. They've looked at this in terms of what they need for staff, what they need for visitors, and what they'll need for the typical meetings that take place throughout the year.
What was the building commissioner's input on the parking?
Excuse me?
What was the building commissioner's input on the parking, or he's actually the zoning enforcement chief?
He really said that we should probably use the mixed-use building. And
what would that bring it to?
it's roughly 50 to 60 spaces.
So he's asking for 50 or 60?
Well, he's saying that we should ask for a reduction in the parking. So the way he reads,
So he's,
the way the bylaw is interpreted by Bob is that we have storage in this building, but it's storage for fire trucks, like, yeah.
right.
And then we've got some office municipal space for offices, or administrative spaces, if you will. Then we have the training room, which is an assembly space. And so if you add up all those little parts and pieces, you get to between 50 and 60 spaces.
Assuming that every seat in the training room and every place else is filled at one time.
Right, and assuming that, like, the general public would be able to use the storage spaces, and the general public would be able to use the administrative areas.
So that's the max with every seat of the building
Yeah.
being taken simultaneously.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, and so I mean, like I said, the special permit we're requesting is to get 31 spaces, as opposed to either the 50 or 60 or the 25, depending on how it's interpreted. The next special permit that we're looking for is the green belt buffer that we talked about. And so just so you all know the process we've gone through, we met out on the site with Rich and Bob. Our landscape architects have also walked around the site. There is existing vegetation that essentially starts here, about 40 feet from the property line. And that wraps the eastern edge of the site. Then we've got existing vegetation all around the south side of the site. And then as you start coming up the western side, the vegetation stops, right? So we've all been out there. On the western side, we also have ledge. So if we had to plant there, we'd dig down a few feet, and then we'd have to blast ledge out to plant the trees. Along the back side of the property, again, we believe that there's ledge looking at the topography, and we have the septic system. In addition to that, a landscape architect pointed out that the existing vegetation that's there used to be some kind of pond or ponding water in that area of the site long ago. And we are basically looking at wetland plants. And the concern there is that the type of plant you're looking for in a green belt probably will not survive in that kind of soils. and it will compete with the existing vegetation that's there.
The Phil's.
So what we're seeking is the special permit that allows the planning board to say if there's existing vegetation, you don't have to comply with the letter of the bylaw in terms of the green belt. And we're especially asking that on the eastern side property where there's existing trees, we want to supplement those existing trees. And supplement those existing trees in a way that, you know, obviously hits the intent and the spirit of the bylaw.
Last time you guys were here, you had circles all over the place.
Yes, we did.
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
My eyes aren't that bright. Did you remove a bunch of the circles on this plan? Because it looks a lot more realistic now.
We did. We
Okay.
did. So all along the south edge of the property line, behind the septic system and on that hill, where all the existing vegetation is, all those circles have gone away. Same thing on the eastern property line. What we're doing now is supplementing some trees that are there with some vegetation. So we're not planting the 2 rows 10 foot by 15 foot on center.
Where is the vegetation on the east side?
It's here. So these little plants.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, west side.
So the west side, it starts where the vegetation and the ledge, we believe,
Right.
stops and marches along. And this, what you see here, there's 2 rows of trees.
Yeah.
That's actually strict stipulation of. For now, that's part of the discussion we'd like to talk about. When we get to the easement, we stop the trees. We could go into the easement with some of those trees without affecting the drainage, so we can certainly do that. And then we wanted to just point out that from the property line to the face of the building is about 96, 97 feet. And from the face of the building to the actual curb line onto the road is just over 100 feet. And so what Bob and the fire chief, who was also with us during this site walk, their concern is sight lines, vehicles coming out, as well as when drivers are going up and down Main Street, they want to be able to see the fire trucks coming out of the station. So for that reason, we chose, and this is basically like standing on the site, kind of looking at sight lines. The decision was we would start on the eastern property line, not at the northern edge of the property, but 40 feet back.
So he gave you a sight distance break on the first 40 feet.
Correct.
Right, on the west side, right, this is what I told Rich I don't get. On the east side, you've got hundreds of feet of clear sight
Yep.
coming down that street, straight, level. On the west side, you've got a rotary, you got a big elevation change, and you got queuing at Dunkin' Donuts. So all the talk about building the green belt out to the street, which is technically the bylaw, which, as I mentioned, we can't waive bylaws. This seems to me, look for the board, I was talking to Rich about this seems to be a public safety issue. Kind of ironic where it's a public safety building. I don't see why somebody's supposed to put a block in all the way down to Main Street when you have traffic coming over there constantly with a queuing line across the street, all hindering the sight of vehicles coming out quickly. So I was confused at why they gave you a 40-foot sight distance break on the west side when really it's open, clear, straightforward, from what I know. And on the other side, there was no talk about giving not only that much of a break, but a bigger break because the sight distance issues seem to be a lot more involved on that east side of the property, west side of the property, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So that wasn't mentioned at all?
It was. I think Bob was saying you can have the same 40 feet on the west side, and our request would be, can we extend that to the 96 feet? Again, because of the sight line.
40 feet just seems like a little simplistic. Rick. To me, every sight distance plan I've been on here, you take into consideration what is the sight distance issues. And every sight distance, as you know, is not the same. So it just seems to me that if you're looking for, and again, I'm asking Chad, the board's consensus, if you're acting 40 feet, where I don't even see a sight distance problem, right, to be honest with you. On the other side, I would think the sight distance is twice as involved.
And to your point, there are street trees that are planted as you walk across from the northwest corner of the fire station site, you walk up that sidewalk towards the church, there are street trees. So that's another sort of, and those are planted, they're growing, they're much taller than 6 feet.
Right.
And so that was the other thing that's been pointed out to us is, in terms of sight lines, we got to kind of look around those trees.
So like I said, the bylaws say that we can't waive things, but I certainly don't think I'm going to be forced to enforce the bylaw when it causes a public safety problem. That's myself personally. We'll look for the rest of the board's input on that, but that's just how I stand.
That's a really good point, John. You're absolutely right. I mean,
Will we be asking for a traffic study of this, or is that not under our purview?
So they asked for a waiver for a traffic study. However, well, two things. One, you could ask for, if you wanted to focus on a particular issue, you could, get some expert, depends what you could do a full-blown traffic study. If there's a particular issue you want to look at specifically, you could focus it on
Rich,
that
do we
issue.
have one from the original police station, fire station split?
That wouldn't be relative anyway, Chris. That was years ago.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
When we did the follow-up on the fire station application that failed at town hall, at town meeting, we did no traffic study on that.
Yeah, it didn't get that far along. I think, so if you wanted to have more of a focus, I guess I would say, in terms of line of sight, those kind of issues, I mean, it's,
I don't know, rather than spending a lot of time, traffic studies are very expensive, and they're
Yes, they are.
worried about plantings. So a traffic study is time consuming. So I think a lot of it's, I don't know, to me, it's common sense. If the board members go down and don't turn left into Dunkin' Donuts, go straight, and imagine cars shooting out of there, then I think you can pretty much determine that, do we need plantings from the front of the building to the street, or can we eliminate those for safety purposes,
right. I agree with you, John. I was going to mention that. I think a lot of it has to do with common sense, and that's right. The vehicles are going to be pulling out there, and you need to be able to see quickly. And you can't wait till you get to the street to look. You need to start looking as soon as they exit the building.
right. Yep.
If it helps, we could go out there and put 2 stakes in the ground, which are these 2 corners right here. And
That would
then
help.
kind of put some construction tape across there so that you can see the face of that building, if you will, for where the apparatus would be coming out.
That
Yeah,
would-
and you know
that
what,
would
I'm
help.
just, I would say, we might want to just revisit the other side just a little bit too, with the same. I know we did it by eye, and
Yeah, and we did it by eye, but it's a little tough to see right now because you got the existing station sort of, looking.
so maybe you can't do it in field, but maybe by plan.
Right.
Because the one thing, there's a significant hedgerow on the other property next to it that is,
Essentially over here. And that's about 40 feet back, it's like right there.
Okay.
And it is significant. It's much taller than 6 feet.
I mean, it's an absolute, yeah, it's a
100%
wall.
dense.
Green.
Yeah, it's a green wall.
As an occasional customer of Dunkin' Donuts myself, right, a lot of times it's queuing on both sides. It's queuing
Oh,
from
yeah.
the west and from the east.
Right.
And people are going around the people
Right.
queuing from the west.
And so then the last special permit that we're going to seek is a height adjustment, which is allowed by the bylaw, from 40 feet to 46 feet. And, just as a reminder, because it is the fire station and we have the height of the apparatus bays, our floor-to-floor height is just over 20 feet.
Right.
And so basically that pushes the whole building up on the site.
And a requirement to not have a flat roof.
And our requirement not a flat roof. Pitched roof, we do have some flat roofs behind the slope
Yeah.
portions. Okay. And we're doing that, number one, it gives you space for solar panels in the future. And number two, it's a little bit less expensive. But what we have done is we've made a conscious effort not to have any mechanical units up on the roof, except for maybe an exhaust fan. But we're kind of keeping those roofs clean. And then in the back of the building, which is just this little area here, and there's a little bump out in the front, those two are flat for training purposes. So, we didn't, rather than build a separate training structure, we have the training in the back of the building. And again, the design review board has reviewed and looked at that, and I believe zoning has also seen that when we had our presentation. So, in essence, that's the site, and those are the special permits we'll be seeking. We did receive the letters, the peer review letters. So we received it on Thursday. We sent that off to the civil engineer, Judith Nitch Engineering. So they have it. We've reviewed it quickly. So we'd be able, Judith Nitch Engineering, the civil engineer. Terra Inc. is the landscape architect. They've also reviewed the letter. So we can, if there are some specific questions, I can let you know if we've already talked about those. But otherwise, they are in the process of reviewing all those comments and obviously sending back a response to the comments.
Yeah, I reviewed what what Beta had put together. Do you have I'm assuming, it would be nice to see the auto turn movements, especially in the back. That looks pretty tight.
Yep.
And I think the other one, you requested the elevation view for the height.
Yeah.
Just so we could see that as well.
Yeah.
And I am aware that some of the building does have flat roofs, or maybe most of the building, I don't recall, but there are flat roofs with kind of simulated fronts to make it still fit within the character of the town.
And I might actually have the presentation on here right now. Yeah.
I think might be good to ask Phil if he had any particular things that he wanted to highlight.
Yeah, so we didn't have a whole lot. It looks like it's a pretty good design. So a few things that we noted is that I don't know if the board wants to extend the sidewalk to the edge of the property in the front to meet that requirement. And then the house 115 on the east side of the property is fairly close to the property line. I think it should be added to the plan just so we can see the impact or non-impact of the buffer planting. There will have to be, for stormwater, there's only a few issues I think we have is obviously having soil tests to confirm the groundwater depth and the soil texture. I know we worked with Judith Nitch on another project for another town where they were proposing similar stormwater techniques to remove TSS, and we had long discussions there. So I think we can work with Judith Nitch on their stormwater comments, but relatively minor technical issues that we can work through. So no, I don't. I was looking on when you talked about the site distance, looking on the Google Maps here with the street view. It doesn't look like a huge issue going west right now. Obviously, if you plant there, it's gonna. And you're right. There's a green wall on the looking east. So.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
Sidewalk, so Phil ran through a couple things there. I took some notes down. The sidewalk, my opinion would be to extend it. There's that little spot on the northeast side of the property where it doesn't extend.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd want the sidewalk there?
I think that's what Phil was talking about. It's my understanding.
Okay. We just, so you know, the sidewalk now that comes down, we've got the crosswalk here, and then we're bringing that sidewalk right down to our main entrance.
Right.
So we can certainly just have that go forward there with a tip down for the wheelchair, tip back up. And we can, again, just decide the location to stop the sidewalk. Do you know what I mean? Like we could, because this is sort of off property onto, it's within the town's easement of the town property. So you can decide where you want to stop.
Maybe we need to ask DPW how far they would like that to go.
Because there isn't.
I think it would be good to consult with DPW on that.
I think valid point to check with them, because there isn't a sidewalk on that side there
No,
past
there's
the
not.
station, so.
Right.
So they may want to just, they might say that's fine, or they might say, well, bring it down to the entrance for the parking lot. But I think we need to get their input.
Sure. There's also some structures here. If I zoom in, you can see there's a drainage structure there. There's also an electrical handhole. And so just for what it's worth, you know, if we do put the sidewalk in, we're just gonna have to adjust those things.
Okay.
So you folks still have to do depots with infiltration areas,
So we didn't,
SW4?
SW4. Yeah, so we do have 2 areas of perforated pipe underground that's wrapped. Mostly what we're doing, and I think this is the best way to show it, we have that structure here, we have that structure here, and then everything else, what we're doing is using these bio-retention areas.
Right, but I'm saying he's asking for 2 depot tests?
Yeah, I think he's asking for 2 test pits, yeah.
So you're set to do that?
We can certainly do that. We haven't, we can talk about doing that. What Judith Nitsch did was, we have a geotech report. So this whole area over here, because it was blasted in 2017, I think late October 2017, it was blasted, but all the rock tailings were left in place. And so essentially, we're digging a lot of that out and bringing in new material. And so the other piece, which is this large bioretention area here, sorry you can't see it very well, but the existing station is right there.
Right.
And so, you know, we could dig a test pit right out in front of the station, but we don't want to go through the floor or anything like that right now, but we can get something.
I mean,
out
the
there.
infiltration, if you're going to use an infiltration, it's kind of important for this site.
Sure.
Right, and that's why it's in the regular. How many square feet of permeable pavers are you doing?
The permeable yeah,
Right.
the permeable pavers are, it's not a lot of square feet. It's this area here.
Now, what process are you building structures underneath to have the water infiltrate?
We're just building it on the stone dust. No structures underneath.
It makes the drainage even more important, then, because as you know,
Yep.
over time, these are gonna clog up.
Yep.
So there's a great guess, in 10 years, there is gonna be no permeation there. So again, is Phil still here with us? It makes, right, where it's in the center of town, it's a low spot, it makes the drainage really important. And that's why everything in the bylaws should be followed exactly to make sure this doesn't flood. And Phil, you know, I'd like to see it so that the impermeable pavers, if they were counted impervious, I should say, that it still worked. Because over time, I mean, as you know, putting in permeable pavers with a system underneath is a very expensive job, and it's a very long process. This is just you're laying pavers, and there's a significant difference in the two, so you can assume that over time they will block up. So I do think that the infiltration part of this thing is real important for down the road. You don't want to be stuck with flooding because this thing didn't exactly work as you thought. So I'd like to make sure that you folks follow all of this and make sure that we get a response, so you've got enough clearance to make the drainage work.
Okay, yeah, we'll
Okay.
definitely do that.
Right.
Yep.
So regarding the plantings on the, I guess it was just the plantings, this was the comment from the DPW. I'm not sure if Rich has forwarded this to you yet, because it came in, I guess it came in 2 weeks ago, so. But it was, only comment is that the eventual trees will be planted on the public property, therefore they will inherently become public shade trees. I would ask that the planning board include a stipulation that all tree plantings be done under the supervision and approval of the tree warden per Mass General Law, Chapter 87, including but not limited to the types of trees, time of year, available tree selection at the time of planting, and soils used.
Sure.
So,
For the record, Rich, we should also.
so if you don't have that, Rich can send it to you.
Yeah, but that's something that we would,
I figured you'd probably be doing that anyway.
yeah, but,
I
yeah.
believe I did send it along. I'll double check, but I
Okay.
believe I did
To
already.
protect the planning board, I think, where the parking is sort of ambiguous at best, right, 20, 31, 54, let's get something from Bob on record, just acquiescing to what we're about to waiver for these folks, okay?
Yes.
Or he's the one that does this for a living, basically. It's all over the place, so we want to make sure that that's covered. And if you guys have spoke with him before, then I'm sure it'll be fine. But I'd like to have that at least for our file, because it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so what, just to clarify that point, so Ron did mention earlier, so what Bob is looking for is what we see as a typical breakdown based on use types. You mentioned earlier, office, storage, so forth.
Yep.
Come up with a number.
Great.
So they're gonna do that.
Super, okay.
And then I'll have Bob take a look at it before, as part of the review process to make sure everything.
We can include a correspondence from the chief requesting 31 spaces.
I'm more interested in Bob's, nothing against the chief. but
Okay.
The self-interest doesn't give you the same
Sure.
objectivity as an outside party, but
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Well, I think it's a good balance, right? Because Bob will do the zoning analysis to get that, what the required number is, the chief has suggested what that number is, and see what that delta is, so everybody's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see,
Understand
I agree with John. I
Yeah.
think I'd like to see what Bob has, but the chief's, I'd also like to know what the chief, why he proposed 31,
Well, you
and
know,
what his thoughts were.
there's an opinion when you come to some of these things that, all right, we need these amount of seats. Well, if you only need them twice a year, you can really use a joint area, or go down to the police station, whatever. We really have a need for this right here in-house. Okay, so assuming that's the case, you justify the parking setup. So that's what we're about here.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and that means, I think, not to belabor the point, but so to speak, right, is that, you know, right now, if we look at the parking in the center of town, and particularly thinking with COVID and so forth, you know, at some point, I think the old town hall may come back to in terms of demand for parking. So it needs to be, if there's event or activities and training, you can't overburden the area with parking, right? So you have to have a plan to park, so it's not out on the street.
Right.
Because that would kind of defeat the purpose of keeping the line of sight, right?
Yes.
Parking on the street, coming out of the station, so we'll make sure we're.
So regarding the old town hall, it's my understanding that the fire station is using the back area, those back buildings for storage, for some equipment. So
Yeah.
is all that equipment going to come
Yes.
back on site in one location then?
Yes, when the project is complete, all of their apparatus, all of their vehicles, all of their items will be stored at the fire station. There'll be no need to take that space up anymore.
That's great. And that wasn't really part of the site plan, I was just curious. My
okay.
curiosity.
Have you guys decided on color yet? Did design review give you any input?
We did, and the community has, so we need to do some study about how white is white.
There's a lot of
200
different
shades
ways.
of white, right?
Yeah, well, you know, the concern is they don't want it to look dirty, you know, so can we get a color of white that's not stark white, let's put it that way. And then, you know, using the gray to sort of offset the mass of the building. And then the red doors within the
Breaks
gray.
it up.
Yeah, and so, you know, to that end, Obviously, all this is getting painted, so we will cover that when the time is, and I suspect lots of people will be involved.
Have you decided on your siding?
So right now, we have, the basis of design is the urethane fly ash composite siding. But we have, actually, we're gonna present to the building committee.
Is that the one that adds to the budget?
No, that actually is in the budget. Yep.
What is it called again?
It's the Westlake true exterior siding.
Is it a cement board or a vinyl or?
It's you can think of it as a cement board. It's basically fly ash with fiber in it and a urethane product. So it is not susceptible to water. So like the fiber cement you have on your library, you know, you have to put that up in a very specific way. So this product is not susceptible to water. It holds paint better than wood. So it extends, you know, 20 or 30 to 50% the amount of time between painting, if you will. It's insect resistant. It's Class A fire resistant.
And it's in budget.
So, and it's in the budget. It's currently in the budget, right?
I think you guys did a good job on the design and everything. So, I mean, I was on the committee for 2 long years, Kevin. I sympathize with you dearly. We lost. Hopefully you'll win, but it's tough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members have questions?
I have a question going back towards traffic, but will there be any signaling that when trucks come flying out that there's a light out on the road that tells cars to get out of the way, or no?
No. And just the thought process there was the existing fire station has a distance to Main Street right now. And we're actually increasing that distance and making it much wider. So those sight lines become all that more important.
Is there, you know, some sort of standard that you point to in terms of what's that trigger point? Because I know stations do have, you know, they stop the traffic like that. Is there?
I've just seen that queuing problem in front of
Yeah, no, I'm
McDonald's where
just curious. Is there?
can't even go straight because people don't want to get into the parking lot. They want to wait for a drive-through, and it becomes a big cluster.
Yeah.
If that was on the building, could you still see it? Would it be much less expensive to put a warning flashing red light on the building?
Yeah, good question. I think what we'll do is we'll talk to our civil engineer, our landscape architect, and our electrical engineer. And
I know in Norwood, they have a similar setback on their fire station as this.
They have
And
lights, though.
What?
They have lights in the.
Yeah, they have traffic lights, but they also have the red lights on the building showing that they're going to be coming out, so.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into it.
I think it's a good question in terms of volume.
Absolutely.
For,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I like what you said, is like, where's the threshold? Where's that trigger point of when you need something like that?
Okay.
And I mean, we probably aren't at that threshold where we need it, but what can we do to enhance the
be
warning?
prepared for it. Right?
Yeah.
Well, it just shows you how important the sight distance really is in this thing.
Yeah, it does,
We got an
yeah.
intersection right down that way at Seacog Street there. That's
You don't go in there and mow it.
Okay.
And it only, like I said, it only grows to a
hayfield.
certain height.
How long is that supposed to hold water for? 48 hours?
Yeah, I can get that information too. Yep.
Could you send along you know, from the landscape architect, the grass that you're talking about? Do you have a?
Yeah, actually, I think we might
Do you have
have
a?
it right on the plans.
All right.
All right, so it's a basin seed mix. And I can't pronounce that. I'm gonna call it deer tongue. So,
Okay.
it's called deer tongue, alkali grass, Virginia wild rye, creeping bent grass, foul bluegrass,
So
fox
it's not
edge.
mowed?
Right.
Do they have a nice picture or something of North to visually
service?
see what that looks like?
Actually, we do. And
You do?
We can
Detail?
share that with you.
Okay, that'd be
Because
good.
what we did, yeah, when Matt was engaged in the process for that meeting, we showed him, like, here are
Okay.
some plants, and then here is the retention grass. Here's a
Okay.
photo of it. And
Because there's no buffer around it with plantings. right?
there is a buffer. We have some really short, low hedges
Oh, you do?
around there, just along the sidewalk,
Street?
if you will.
Your elevation didn't show those.
Yeah. No, this is just a,
The rendering, you mean?
yeah, we should show the hedge here.
Yeah.
But this is, and, again, the reason we sort of maximize this and reduce this is exactly that. To be mowed versus not mowed. So even on the slopes, we've got some native seasoned grass, which is erosion control, and then Virginia wild rye, Indian grass, red fescue. And the idea is that you don't mow it once a week.
And that grass dies in the winter.
Yes. Yep, goes dormant in the winter.
Dormant, doesn't die.
Dormant.
Dormant, keyword,
I know there's a big difference.
different deal.
Oh, yeah.
You won't have to
Perennial,
plant it,
not
well,
named.
knock on wood, you won't have to plant it again.
Yeah, if you have a,
Yeah, we do.
Some picture to
we
see.
can definitely get a photo. Share a photo with you.
Melissa, did you have any comments? Thoughts?
I was just wondering if the grass that goes there is just going to look like weeds.
Oh, it's a beautiful picture.
Is it?
Yeah, we can bring the picture in.
Yeah, just that.
We can
Oh,
dig for the
actually,
picture. Have you ever think of any perennial grasses that really are enhancing?
right, that's what I was thinking.
But
Would
right
grass
now-
plants work there where it's
You know,
just more like a
there's
fountain?
probably 30, 40 different type of perennial grasses that are there most of the year. They have color, they have variety, and they have stature rather than grass. These are done on multi-million-dollar homes.
Right.
So you don't want to get to the point that the neighbors drive by there and see a bunch of dead grass with weeds infiltrating, which they do. That's all. I think Eric's point is pretty good in this respect, that you don't want to ruin the whole look of your station, right, by having a dead area out there.
Right, 'cause it's so beautiful.
Yeah, we can get Tara Inc., who's the landscape architect, she can definitely put something together, so you can see exactly what the plan is.
Okay.
My other question is, oh, sorry, it's on a different slide.
I know.
Oh, no, it's here. So the apron that you have on the back side of the station, is
Yep.
that where the trucks return through, or what exactly is that?
So how this works is they're gonna have 2 ambulances. So amongst all of the apparatus, what they're looking to have is a different vehicle across these. So every one of these doors, right, these 6 doors, have a specific vehicle. So that there's no more jockeying around, which is what they do now. And the 2 exits out of the back allow for a second squad and a second ambulance.
Okay,
And so, the calls, I forget what the chief calls it, but basically it's a health call, have gone way up in Norfolk over the years. And so the idea of having 2 ambulances ready to go right out the door without any jockeying of vehicles was one of the priorities of the project.
yeah.
Makes sense.
And so we end up, one's coming out the front, one's coming out the back. They can also decide to have both of them come out the front, and then the 2 squads go out the back.
Okay,
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily.
They have now is enough space to just pull in here, turn around and back in.
What are the curbing,
Concrete.
On the, yeah,
type of
granite
up?
and concrete. So,
How far is that light pole from the street? I'm sorry, the flagpole from the street?
So if you're looking at the existing station, that flagpole is probably, let me find a better picture where I can see the, So it's towards the back of the building, where the building is now. It's kind of 1/3 from the back of the station to the front. It's about 1/3 that distance.
You need lighting for that, right?
Yep, so it's pretty far back. And all of our lighting calcs have 0-foot candles at the property line. And we are looking at illuminating this, and there would most likely be some kind of monument sign out front, and we're gonna try to light that with downlights. So the light that we're thinking on the flagpole would be at the top of the pole, shining down, not at the bottom, shining up.
I was just trying to tie into that red light for notification. Trucks are coming out, were you gonna wire that anyway?
Yeah.
Is that even a possibility?
We were thinking of solar light, but we'll talk to the building committee, we'll talk to the
I
team and see if
wouldn't
there's
want to rely on solar for a light when it's a public safety thing, just in case it was a cloudy and all of a sudden,
Right.
that's all you need. So-
Yeah.
You mean
so
solar for
unfortunately-
the flagpole?
For the flagpole.
Yeah,
For the flagpole.
I know what you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have neighbors that have those flagpoles with the light on top with the solar.
Yeah.
But they are gonna have the lights out at the monument sign, so there would be power out there. Those solar at the monument sign.
No, the monument sign and things like that.
I'm still onto this flashing red light as the.
I know, I get
I
it.
just think it's a simple
Right.
thought, that's all.
The last question I had before we open to the public was, so have you given any consideration as to the future wastewater system that the town is working on and where that would possibly go?
So we did, and one thing that we pointed out to the designers of that system is back here in this corner, which is where they currently show it.
Yep,
They could certainly come in here and take these trees down and put it here,
okay,
but that's all ledge.
right.
So
I know that's where they show it, yeah, it's all
yeah,
ledge.
and so the comments that we heard back was, okay, we'll talk about this later. So the Comcast building that's back there right now, that's gonna come down as well.
Okay,
So, yeah, and Comcast is putting their switch somewhere else in town.
oh, okay. All right. That was the end of my questions. Anyone else on the board? So let's open it up to the public.
Donna Jones, I like what they propose. I've mentioned before, I was involved in the church when the town redid the center and lowered the wires. The town put in the street lights.
Sorry, I don't think the microphone's on. I think it-
Against Main Street, and the town put in the sidewalk and put in those trees to the west. So as far as I remember, like walking, they're above 6 feet, but maybe from the truck, it would be line of sight problem for the truck driver. Just one of those things. Town, can they trim the tree higher or change the type of tree or remove the tree? Just an option.
Good question. Yeah, we're gonna need to talk to, I think it'd be important about laying out some at it, and I think we get DPW take a look as well.
So there's an option B in terms of that planting on that
Okay,
property line, which is a minor adjustment to the B1 boundary district into the church, just slightly enough. Therefore, it wouldn't be abutting a residential district, necessitating the buffer.
right.
Because the church is zone residential, so because of the butts, that's really the issue, that's the driver in this buffer issue in terms of it. And the reality, as you see out there, they abut a parking lot essentially. So, buffering from a parking lot is not the same as you want to have good buffers screened from a residence and a home and those kind of things within a residential district. So it's more of an institutional use. So if there is, if the pathway is not through this process to the planning board, then that's a second option. But perhaps, take a look at those so that is an option to consider.
Okay.
There has been, I did review it with town council in terms of, it would be an insignificant adjustment over just to get it over, so you don't abut it. It would run along the church, and the church would still remain holy, I'll say holy.
Still holy.
Still holy, yeah.
Less parking.
I didn't plan that, but
Okay.
holy, different holy,
right.
within the residential district, except for that small addition, just extension of the district. So that is an option to consider. Of course, that would be something that would have to be brought before town meeting in the fall, so that's a little bit longer pathway.
That's nice to have as an option B in our back
option.
pocket.
Yeah.
I like what John was saying, and the rest of us, I think we all feel that, that safety, sight distance is important.
A lot to be said when you create bylaws, sometimes put in special provisions for the option for a special permit, just in case something you didn't think of at the time might come up.
Right.
And the good news is none of these plantings would be installed until late summer, early fall 2024.
Okay.
So, I think as Rich is saying, there's a couple of different options that can be considered, and Bob brought that up too. Bob was saying, look, the reality is you're building the station, you're taking down the old station, and then you're planting this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's like, we got some time to figure it out.
I think when you folks were here months ago, Eric Hunt had said it right. The bylaw wasn't created for this type of circumstance. It was created to block a residential family from a commercial site in the back.
That's right. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else from the audience? Zoom? I don't see anything. Betsy, do you see any? Again, there's a weird glare on the screen, so I can't really
It's okay. No,
tell.
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay.
Got another question. It seemed like on the the police project, there wasn't a signage plan up front. Is there any signage that has to be associated with this, or?
Thank you, Rich.
Does that help?
Yes.
Wow.
We're thinking some signage on the building. And so the first sign on the building would obviously say something along the lines of no car. And then what we've got is operational signage. Just like, for instance, no parking or things like that. We do have some signage on the building that sort of locates which bay on the doors, so that when all call comes out and the firemen are reporting back, they know exactly which bay to get to, things like that. So that's the operational signage, and then we've got the signage on the building. And then somewhere out here, there was a thought of having a very similar sized monument sign, which is what's there now. And it would be something exactly that simple, like no masonry, no foundations, just a simple sign that says Norfolk Fire.
However, if there is movement on changing the sign bylaw, which would include private property owners as well as public, this could be a good opportunity for some of the idea of that location for a sign that provides information to the
changeable.
Yeah.
Oh, a lit sign.
Backlit sign that
One that's lit.
can be
right,
programmed
so
with-
that you can say, hey, not hey, but, burn permit, change of smoke detectors, provide that good public information that,
Are we opening up that can of worms right now, Rich?
Not yet.
well, a little bit later tonight. Yeah.
It's on the agenda later.
It's later. Yeah. Good segue.
And as part of the construction documents, there'll be a phasing plan?
Yes. Yep, and a logistics plan, because we do have to keep the trailer out back and the station operational when the new building is being constructed, so there'll be both a logistics plan and a phasing plan with scheduled dates for completion of each phase.
So in terms of next steps, your next meeting is scheduled, which I let Ron know and Kevin and Steve, that is August 30th.
Right.
So the goal is to get things tidied up that we raised tonight, provide that to the planning board, and so hopefully you're in that position to
It's gonna
Make
speed
it-
things
make
along
approval.
if they come up with a plan with a red flashing light. Speed things-
John really wants this red
Everything in
flag.
that
We have
head.
our marching orders. We'll definitely take one.
Yeah, so basically, we're talking about 6 weeks to address the comments from Beta and the other things that we've mentioned this evening, and yeah, let us know when it's staked out there, we can take a look.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
We are shooting for a week from this Friday to send Rich back responses to the review,
Okay.
so that he can then share that with Phil, and then if there's any more clarifications that need to take place, it'll all get ironed out long before the August 30th date.
That's great, because, yeah, we got comments back like the day before on a different project, and it's like, well, we can't.
Thanks.
We can't process that in one day. That's not
Make
going
sure
to
you come
work.
back with that stormwater stuff.
Yes,
And make sure
absolutely.
you do a calculation, assuming that those pavers fail. The old Norfolk Police Fire Department was turned down because the basement kept flooding. So was Norwood Hospital, so it just, you want to make sure you got that right.
Okay.
Especially with the hill coming down there, too. Okay,
Yep, sounds good.
that's it.
So
So we need a motion to continue.
Yeah,
Yep.
to August.
Yeah,
7.
so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Chad, chair votes aye. Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next item is an appointment at 7:30.
Yep, so we have, so Chris Heap from Town Council's office is joining us via Zoom.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
There he is.
Hello?
So quickly, just to intro what tonight's about, as part of the general code package, suite package of things to be done, one of the items was to go through process with the, you got, excuse me.
Take it outside.
Go on, Rich.
All right, so anyway, to update the subdivision regulations and had them on general code as well, in terms of searchable document. They're gonna also do that with the wetland regulations as well.
Okay.
And so at this point, it's really more of a housekeeping thing. It's not a substantive change. I did talk to Chris earlier that I know we do need to make some more substantive changes to the bylaw, but in terms of this proposed change, is really to go through and which matching terms, so it's really a non-substantive process.
So this is the step one to get everything
Just,
aligned.
Correct, right.
Right.
And then subsequent to that, we'll come back in terms of, once this process is completed, to update some of the regulations, you know, that need to be revisited, that are a little aged out in terms of performance requirements and so forth. Yeah, so maybe present, I'm gonna Chris, so he doesn't know this, but a draft.
Right.
On the fly.
On the fly. In terms of present a draft, I'll call set of changes for the August 30th meeting, and then you can set a date. So the changes need to be done through a public hearing process that will be advertised in the paper. We send it out, and it's a vote of the planning board. There is no other entity that will be involved in terms of those changes. So get your draft so you know the scope of what it is, so you can see it, feel it, get a sense of it. And then you can take a look at the 30th, and then we would do something in September. Probably have a special meeting, because your September meeting is pretty close to the, or we could go to October. I mean, I don't think we're not, he doesn't like special meetings, I know.
We overloaded John with
I know,
four or five meetings in a month for several months.
You're right, I understand. So
Real special.
I think it's our schedule per se. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think necessarily everybody's chomping at us per se.
No, I don't think, I think in terms of this, substantive changes that the board might want to make to its subdivision regulations, I think we can take as much or as little time on those as the board would like.
That's part 2.
Yeah. That's step 2. Yeah. So I'm all for, let's get everything in alignment. This part 1, phase 1, whatever you want to call it, just getting everything in E-code and get it all aligned.
Yeah, okay. So is that a fair approach, Chris?
So that certainly works for me. You add the changes that I was prepared to discuss tonight were really just, I think, fell into 2 categories. One is just to renumber and reformat your special permit regulations and your subdivision regulations to correspond to the E-code format. And with those changes, your special permit rules and regulations would become Chapter 320 of the Town Code, and your subdivision regulations would become Chapter 325 of the Town Code. Again, really just reformatting and renumbering all of your section numbers to correspond to the new regime. And there were also just a handful of non-substantive changes that I think we were ready to talk about tonight. Really, just changing words like town treasurer to treasurer collector, and updating statutory references that have gone out of date since they were originally included in your regulations. But again, no changes of substance. Those were just really clerical and administrative fixes to a handful of provisions in both the special permit regs and the subdivision regs. Beyond that, in terms of any actual changes to the actual substance of the regulations, Rich and I can keep working on that and bring those back to you whenever we and you are ready.
Now, we could, I don't suggest this, but we could give another option, which is have that to you and then schedule public hearing on August 30th. If you don't feel that that's that much of a change.
Is there a benefit to that?
To do it on August 30th?
Yeah.
Well, it gets done fast.
All right, fair enough.
Beyond that?
That's the only benefit. It's just
not really. I mean, that's the only, yeah. And trying to be careful, cognizant of extra meetings and so forth, but I'd probably stick with plan A, plan 1, whatever.
Yeah, I would stick with the original plan.
All right. I just thought I'd give you an option.
Okay. I mean, if there's doesn't seem like there's a huge amount of urgency to fast track it that fast, to get it done that fast. So why? Let's not push it.
Yeah.
But it's not even that big of a lift, right? So this is this is something that we just review, and it's pretty
It's not
straightforward.
a big lift, yep.
So if it waits till August 30th or October,
Exactly.
whatever.
I think whatever, I should say, let me clarify. So with Eric being new, yourself being new, and Melissa being new, I think plan 1 works better because you get to see it before, you know what I mean? It gives you time to kind of feel it, see what it's about, a sense of it. John's been around, we don't need to push it. I mean, somebody's not pushing us per se to do this. Just let's get
As long as we keep moving
and get it done. Yeah.
I feel we're...
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll stick with plan 1. I guess
Okay.
we'll call it.
Okay.
How's that? All right.
So these changes that we're talking about for the E-code stuff, would they be in front of fall town meeting to vote on, or is it?
It's all you, right here.
Oh, there's no.
This is the regulations that fall under you.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we're not on a deadline of we got to get this done to get it posted on a warrant.
No.
We don't have to worry about that.
Even
Right.
better.
No, all the changes that needed to go through town meeting were taken care of at the prior town meeting. And what was reserved was just the regulations that the boards can act on all on their own.
Has that process wrapped up yet?
It's
Springs
not,
E-code?
we have not heard back, well, so.
I was gonna ask the same thing, yeah. Where are we at with that?
So it's before the AG right now,
That's right.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So when do you think we'll have all those other things that were approved, completed? The bylaw?
Saying so I think like what I believe what is ripe for the board to approve now is the renumbering and reformatting of both sets of regulations to correspond to the new format. Again, there's no substantive change there. That's just formatting. And your approval tonight will allow E-code to move forward with beginning, the process of having those ready for publication if the AG is to approve the bylaw changes, between now and your next meeting. So I think that's just renumbering and reformatting both sets to correspond to the new E-code format. And in addition to that, there were just a handful of, I think, what we're calling non-substantive changes to the two sets of regulations. And I can sort of briefly was if it's helpful. Those would be in the special permit rules and regulations. E-code would like to change all references to the town treasurer in the prior version to read treasurer/collector, which is the more change the term planning administrator to director of planning and land use. In what will be section 320-7, that previously had featured an incomplete sentence about 4 members being a quorum. E-code is proposing to just change that to an actual full sentence that says 4 members of the planning board shall constitute a quorum. So again, that substantively was the same both ways, but we have a better written version of that in the new section. And anybody, please stop me at any time if you have any questions about any of these.
I do. Okay, great. So you're talking about the board approving it, so there is no, without a public hearing and so forth, these changes?
Oh, no, I guess I should pause there. We had these ready to discuss, but I think you're correct, Rich, that the changes to the special permit rules and regulations, the board can approve at a regular meeting like the one we're all in right now. I'm eventually going to get to a handful of similar changes to the subdivision regulations, and as minor as those are, I do think those are best handled in the form of a public hearing under the subdivision control law. So to the extent, so Rich's point, these are things that if we go on to discuss these now, these are things that we're probably going to need to talk about again, albeit briefly, again in August after publication of notice. So if the board is inclined to sort of suspend the discussion of these minor changes to that time after we've noticed a hearing, we can certainly do that too.
Yeah,
I think I would recommend that.
I feel I'm more comfortable with hearing for both. But I still think it'd be the right thing to do.
I wouldn't argue with that.
And so I think it would be good if you had a draft of these non-substantive changes ready for our next, if you had it to us prior to the next meeting, that way we could discuss prior to that meeting, discuss it in more detail amongst ourselves. Then we schedule the public meeting in September and approve everything or vote on it then. Can't guarantee we're going to approve it, but just vote on it then.
We're not doing anything. I'm not just.
Can you?
That makes sense to me.
So I appreciate the overview on some of these non-substantive changes. If there was any other, I mean, that's good to know. I'm not sure if you have a laundry list or just a handful more.
There were I think enough more that if we're gonna, it probably makes sense to have you all have taken a look at it ahead of time and revisit all of them once in August.
Okay. Yeah. So if you could get that to us, in advance of the next meeting, that way we have some time to review it prior to the meeting, and we can discuss as a board amongst ourselves, and obviously provide feedback or any changes if there's any issues.
Sounds
then we can do the public hearing in September for both.
Great, we can do that.
I'd just rather be safe than sorry. I don't want anybody getting upset that we did this without having a public hearing.
Okay.
Richard, the last going on with this did E-Code not deliver a red line markup of changes as they went?
Yeah, so that
We
was
asked
one
for
of
that
the,
this time?
yeah, so that's a good question. So in terms of, remember what E-code for town meeting, they wouldn't do a red line version. Can we have a red? What would you
We
say?
can attempt to produce one. What I have is a list of the changes, but they're not, E-code has not produced one that I have seen that has the changes sort of superimposed over the prior version. Our office, however, can attempt to create one.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely more helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or at least ask.
Sounds like we have the answer, unfortunately, but in terms of red line, we got to know before. But I think it's important.
Couldn't hurt to ask, because the more times we and others ask, maybe they'll start realizing they need to do this.
Yeah, it's important for the business model.
Can't hurt.
I mean, they could sell it as an extra. I mean,
Whatever. Yeah. It's just,
And now you're giving them new ideas, Chad.
yeah,
wow.
business. Yeah. Okay.
But they could probably produce it really inefficiently, or real efficiently,
Correctly, so let's
and cheaply.
avoid that.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. So that,
Any other comments on that from the board? Melissa?
No, the red lines would be great. Is it just a quick find and replace, or is this, I don't know how in-depth these, is it, it sounds like it's a little bit of a list, but is it just like
It's sort of a combination of find and replace and sometimes actually restructuring a sentence. So not to change the meaning of the regulation, but just to sort of clean it up. So it's a combination.
Okay.
So I think a red line would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Surprised they don't do that if they're making.
Like I said, it should be an add-on. It should just be included.
It should be
It
included.
should just be included.
I
Let's be
agree.
honest. But, yeah, okay. Any other comments? Okay. You doing good? All right. Red light? You need your red light? All right.
all right.
Any other discussion on that, Rich?
No, I think
Anybody?
that's good. I think
Okay.
we've covered that topic.
All right. So,
Thank you all.
thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris?
Good to see you all.
Yep, you too.
I think they turn the AC off at 7:30.
Yeah.
What's it, like 97 degrees in here?
Yeah.
It is warm.
Gotta
Very
force
warm.
me out, right? Yeah. Move to adjourn. Yeah.
Budgetary constraints.
I'll be on Zoom with Chris next meeting.
So next item is vote to release Lot 14, 4 Strawberry
Yes.
Lane, from the 1985 Covenant Definitive Subdivision Plan, Strawberry Knowles Estates. So, Rich, what's the headline overview on that?
It was, we've had a few of these where, they've done the title exam and then they find something wasn't
Title examiners are doing a very thorough job these days.
right.
And it found, there was no record that it was released. I'm sure it was, because it's a 1985.
But it was built on.
Right, they had to have been released, but there was just, couldn't find it recorded at the registry of deeds, I'm sure, that the records back then.
For the newer members, there's been a few of these. It's more of a, like I said, they are doing,
Except if we don't vote to issue it, you've got a house built that wasn't allowed to be built,
Right.
Back in 1985,
back in 85.
which is transferred several times
Yes.
since then, but it just,
Okay.
The track record so far is we haven't had one of these that hasn't transferred multiple times and missed previous title exams. But anyway, so,
Would you like a motion?
yes.
Vote to release Lot 14, 4 Strawberry Lane from the 1985 covenant of the definitive subdivision plan Strawberry Knoll Estates.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And Melissa, what is your opinion?
I would vote aye as well.
Okay, unanimous?
Excellent.
great, I have that form ready for you, I'll just sign it at the end.
Okay.
Okay. To be able to put the not trying to challenge themselves with.
It's pretty hot out there right now.
Pretty hot out there. It's not exactly the time, so it seemed like a reasonable request.
So Bob wants our recommendation.
Yeah, to just extend it to October of this year.
Any comments, discussion? Seems pretty straightforward. Okay, so,
Move to recommend to the building commissioner extension of temporary occupancy to October 2022 for 3 David Road.
So moved.
Seconded.
so do we need an exact date, or is October 22 is a whole month, so,
That's
I mean-
Bob's thing.
I know that that's the way it's written. Are they looking for an exact date, Rich? Do you know?
Didn't specify an exact date, but,
Just say October 31st?
So,
yeah,
can I propose a
it's good to have a date. Dates are,
modification or amendment to that to change the date to October 31st, 2022?
So moved.
Who seconded? He seconded the first time, or?
I seconded the first time.
Okay,
You
so we got
seconded
the amendment second, okay. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John? And the chair votes aye. And Melissa, what's your opinion?
I would vote aye as well.
We have that.
Yeah, a lot of water here, huh?
so the afternoon they did.
Okay.
Like to have the, so the temporary would be appropriate in terms, because I like to have the as-built plan. So we got an as-built plan, but then show the connection to the system is just to get an update.
That's
Have-
always good.
Yeah, so we have it updated, so, I would say the
Right here.
temp, I think it should be able to handle within 60 days, you know?
Okay. That's what's my question, is how long?
Yeah.
Any other discussion, thoughts, comments? Okay, so we need, looking for a motion to issue a temporary occupancy for 4 Turnshire Drive, Island Lamp Power, the solar canopy, and it would be a 60-day temporary occupancy.
Yeah, 60 day.
Motion to approve, to recommend to the building commissioner a temporary occupancy for a 60-day period starting today for a 14 Chai Drive Island Light and Power for the solar canopy.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
And we will do a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And Melissa, what's your opinion?
I'm wondering what temporary occupancy is.
So the next item is 10 MacArthur Ave definitive subdivision roadway improvement plan. And then it goes on to say, discuss modification to certificate action and discuss
At the end of where Hunter Ave intersects MacArthur Ave. The property is land court. The roadway was created by plan quite a long time ago, decades ago. And so in order to obtain a building permit to construct a single-family home under our zoning bylaw, you need to meet access provisions of it. So if you recall, came before the planning board, he's going to be paving in front of the lot to be able to provide physical access to the lot. When he went to record...
That's the one with the hammerhead return for public safety use. Yep.
Exactly, with the hammerhead. And so when Franz went to the registry to record the decision and the plan that you had endorsed, someone behind the counter said, no, you can't record this plan. It's a land court. So finally, today, great time.
What we were going to that day.
So,
And I ran into the same lady who was going to stop me again. I had to show the from the boss. So we got recorded.
So I think what's happened in a lot of the cases in government positions, there's been changeover, so there's newer people and haven't had that history on some of these things, and so like, whoop, we can't do this. So it took a little bit, but Ed contacted the land court, and so he went back in, and it's done. So the plan's recorded, and the decision. So that's not needed anymore. So,
It only got resolved today,
so it's been going on a while, unfortunately. So it took a lot of time, unfortunately. But the covenant does need to be signed, executed, voted on the planning board, because that's the security. So just quickly, and not to go crazy deep into this, but for the newer members. Access, and then when you get to the next stage to get the building permit to build it, if everything there, it's fine. If not, you'll have to post some security to make sure to provide access. This, at the end, that hammerhead, excuse me, will become over to the town. It's either going to be by fee or easement, but it's important to the town because, essentially the T to be able to have access for public vehicles and so forth, to have the rights to be able to turn around. People do it now, but they're technically doing it on private property. So this is part of that development process. So the covenant needs to be recorded. In terms of, so that hopefully is just a simple vote. The covenant's been prepared for you to execute it. In terms of the modification to it, I think it became a more complicated project in lots of ways in terms of, so the approval for the roadway hammerhead was raising the profile of the road, so it was, instead of following the natural contour out there, it was raising it, which in turn...
Only on the right-hand side.
Yeah, on the right-hand side, right, on the right-hand side. So which in turn end up necessitating more trees to be cut down, so the trees that were there would be impacted from the abutting neighbor who would like to have the trees, and likewise that future new neighbor would like to probably have trees as well to provide screening. So the thought is to have, and we talked to DPW about this, is just follow just the contour of the land. Be paved, gonna follow the contour, get in to cut it, the roadway. So I just wanted to give you a heads up of that. So it needs to come back to you as a minor modification, but I want to give you a heads up now where we're thinking. And the conversation took place between Franz, Mr. Fiera, isn't it? Fiera? Ferrara?
Yeah.
All right. 30 Hunter Ave, he's the fellow who was at the hearings before for you that were around, and DPW as well. So that's the plan, to modify the plan. And,
So they're coming back with the change plan.
yeah, but we wanted to,
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of what we were talking about too.
you're talking to the mic, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rich and I discussed this out at the site. We were talking about, we identified some trees that would be nice to keep that were, part of the, what is it, it's a 40-foot wide?
40-foot wide, yeah.
So we identified some trees that were located in the last 10 feet closest to the neighbor. Said, gee, it would be nice if we could just kind of like save those trees for him so we're not exposing him, to the road. If we could do that, why not? And so we did. We've left the trees. And so the other thing we'd like to do is just shift the road over about 5 feet. From where it's shown.
Which direction?
Would be to the north, which is towards my property, and
Towards the-
5, so 5 feet away from that neighbor. And then Blair had mentioned that would change the angle for turning around of the plow. So the idea now is just to shift it, the whole thing, both sides of the T up 5 feet, so that wouldn't change the angle of the turnaround and make it harder for the plows. The other thing that would also make it easier to preserve those trees is if we could eliminate the stone trench on just that right-hand side, on the uphill side, on Mr. Fiera's side, and perhaps, put additional stone at the end of the street. Circumference of the hammerhead. And what I'm suggesting, in order to accommodate the neighbor's request to preserve the trees, is that if you zoom in on there, on the street, on the hammerhead itself, I did some field measurements, and in order to preserve the trees that have been identified, and then shift back over, in order to preserve the trees that are located on the right-hand side, which is the downhill southern side nearest the neighbor, it would be necessary to both eliminate the stone trench and move the street 5 feet up. So basically, to create the 10 feet. Because the trees, the swath of trees is a good 10 feet, 10-foot swath.
So who owned MacArthur Ave?
MacArthur Avenue is,
Privately owned?
Yeah.
it's privately
By
owned.
who?
Yeah. Normally, it's people who own 50% of the roadway.
All right.
That's
So
one
it's
It was
interpretation.
an abandoned street approved subdivision, so it's a legal roadway, but it's
Yeah.
owned normally.
right. It's a legal roadway, but it's not a road right now.
No,
It's-
Not really.
right.
It's a property that's encumbered by right to develop the street in its entirety.
Okay.
But if you're looking to move a trench or eliminate, you've got to have engineering done to redo the drainage.
I'm not really looking to do this for my benefit.
I'm not
Rich
saying
was
that.
the one who
If you're
requested
looking
this.
to do it,
Yeah.
period,
Yeah,
then you need recalcs on the drainage, because with this site, with the grade so dramatic, you're going to need to show that this works. And that would probably turn it, in my opinion, from a minor modification to a major.
What I can do is,
But really, it's useless to talk about this without all the plan in front of us and the numbers.
This is more of an informal discussion right now.
this is
but we're
more of an
getting
informal
technical
discussion.
here. That's why I'm.
Yep.
To see if we could just do this as a de minimis field change. That's,
I'd say no. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm only accommodating the request on the basis of a de minimis field change. I don't want to re-engineer the plan and put the brakes on this project. I'm going forward. I'm trying to preserve the trees. I mean, Rich had a twofold purpose in doing this. One was to preserve some trees for the neighbor. The other, I think you were thinking about if we moved it more to the other half, it would make it easier as far as, you're talking about.
So if you
having a
move the
feed.
whole thing up 5 feet, I mean, you can't really move the left side. You're just moving the, everything but the left side, because you're going to be coming up to your property line, are you not?
About 5 feet.
Oh.
There's a little more on the right-hand side, but that would put it out of proportion and really move it too much.
But then, I mean, is that road going to have a crown? I mean, well, it's not centered in there anyway, right now. I'm just thinking down the road that pun was not intended. I'm thinking in the future, if you were to develop, if somewhere along the line, the town or DPW was to develop MacArthur Avenue.
Further down.
Yeah, you're right. Either way, you're moving that.
The proposed road is centered.
Yeah.
So what we'd be talking about here is taking it out of center in order to accommodate the neighbor's request that we preserve trees.
And I would agree with John then that now it's becoming a major modification.
We're talking about
Yeah.
a change of a roadway with nothing in front of us. We're removing part of a drainage where the slope is like 1-to-1, and that's to catch water. I mean, that's a big change, and we need a plan to talk about it.
Yeah.
And for the sake of saving 2 trees, they must be pretty precious because you're asking for another public hearing.
Well, that's fine.
Not to say it's not proper, but talking in the abstract is kind of silly.
Yeah, so the intent is to just discuss it to get a sense of it, because he was trying to accommodate the neighbor. So
My sense is it would be a major modification,
All right.
and you obviously have to redo the drainage calcs because you're removing drainage.
And I appreciate your concern and sensitivity to the neighbors. I appreciate that greatly. But I think it's going to, and I mean, it's up to you, but
I really can't afford to do that, both from a point of capital outlay and, of course, delay.
yeah, no, I get it.
There you go.
So, no, I mean,
All right.
I'm willing
So
to
it is what it is.
accommodate him to.
I think
point.
so.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Does any other board members have any comments? Melissa? You can speak up anytime. Feel free. I think, I would agree with John that moving that, it would be a major modification, and I appreciate your being sensitive and the concern with the neighbors, but, it again would cost you more money and, like you said, time.
Yeah, the delay.
And that's up to you.
I can't afford the delay.
No, I understand.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
So circling back, we do need just to vote on the covenant then.
We need to vote on the,
Just the covenant, that's it. So that's
Okay.
it. Everything else has been, you've taken care of it.
so do we have,
There's a covenant in the,
where's the covenant?
did you print one out too, or not? It was just in there?
I don't think I saw
Covenant
one.
what, letting the lot to be buildable, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it has to be, the covenant needs to be on record of the registry, so it needs to,
I didn't print it out, but I have it.
we can display it on the,
So construction hasn't started yet, I guess.
the construction, the clearing has started, not the physical construction, so
And
this,
he'll be back to get the lot released.
and it'll
with,
come back to
a
get the
bond.
lot released, correct. Yep.
Okay.
So is this in our digital packet too?
It is in your digital packet, let me see.
Form F?
It was in the Google Drive.
That's what I'm on right now.
Yeah.
Just trying to.
Covenant.
Form F covenant, MacArthur F.
Here it is.
So within the covenant, we put a date of June 30th, 2023 to complete the improvements. We'll actually have, so the board, we're not going to sign it tonight. I'll have you execute it first,
Okay, do that.
and then you can come in and sign it. So you're just voting it tonight.
So we're just voting to approve.
Yeah. And that way, he'll sign first, you'll sign second, and then put it on record at the registry and provide us proof of recording.
My first time seeing one of these, like, written in the 1700s, apparently.
So to speak. This is
Where's that?
Signature pages.
Oh, okay.
this is a standard in terms of the.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so,
If he can sign this now and I can notarize it, right?
Oh, all right.
I'll have you.
That's true.
I'll have
Even
you-
better yet.
I'll have you sign it tonight and I'll just notarize your signature. Sure.
So any comments on the, I mean,
vote on
it
it.
looks pretty standard boilerplate type
So you're gonna sign
document with some tweaks for this. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the covenant Form F as drafted for 10 MacArthur Ave definitive subdivision road. Well,
Are you around tomorrow?
do I need this? No, I don't know if I don't think I need that.
Could be. Okay. I'll
Just
have
for
it
10
ready.
MacArthur Ave.
So whenever you wanna come pick it
Correct.
up, it'll be ready.
Do you have a motion as such? So moved. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote.
I'll have it on.
Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Great.
So
Excellent.
Form F is approved.
I'll have it ready for you on Thursday.
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, almost,
Anything else on that topic?
no.
I think
that's
we're
it.
done.
You've covered that sufficiently. Thank you. Yes, so I do want to, so there is endorsement of the Pond Street Solar projects, and I've had a chance to take a look at those. They're in front of you there.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't,
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
not intending to really get into discussion of the plans, because there is, so Jennifer is online to, talk about discussion about the sign bylaw changes, so
Okay.
I want to just skip over the plans at the moment, is that
Okay.
okay? All right.
Yes.
All right. So I sent along a draft for sign bylaw changes for consideration to put before town meeting. And they're in the shared drive. I went through them this afternoon with Bob. He had a couple of suggestions that I do want to tweak in terms of before I would consider it into its final form, just to give you a heads up. So you do have a meeting next week on the 19th to go over changes to the table allowable uses.
Right.
So we can touch base on the sign, but essentially it's kind of simplify it.
Okay. Okay.
I had some surgery today, so
John,
Fair enough.
splitting headache.
Yeah.
I understand.
You're all set.
We're good. Thank you, John.
Take care, John.
Yep.
Take care.
But you got a few things to sign, John.
Should I sign the, oh,
She's got a couple things if you can hold on for.
what?
Or you can come by in the morning.
Come on in the morning.
There you go.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, the air is off here too, which doesn't help.
No, he had surgery. And
No, I know he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he mentioned that. Yeah, so I get it. So in terms of changes to the, and I'll work through the changes. So so there are multiple versions of sign bylaws throughout on. I think the important pieces in terms of our sign bylaw that come up, and one of the issues is illumination.
Yep.
Or the lack thereof. Okay. So try to take a step forward and make some changes and provide the opportunity to kind of work through it, is to allow internal illumination, okay, for signage. But it'll be through the planning board, through a special permit process. And if things go well over time, then we can start to move it away from having to go through that special permit process. So similar to what you just did tonight with the sign, it would follow the same process. You know, be hearing, notification.
Can we issue like design guidelines to help aid that, so that, because you don't want the special permit things to be 45 minutes every time for just a sign, right? Like, you just want them to come in knowing, you know, special
We
permits
can.
is kind of what we're thinking.
We can. We're not there yet. So yes, I do. Sign guidelines are a whole thing unto themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's difficult, and I get that, but just trying to think, like.
You definitely can. Yeah, I'm not suggesting we don't. And so there's a little bit of work for, you know, businesses, but this is kind of that first step to make the changes to give them more flexibility. And we also could develop design guidelines for different districts. So like the design guidelines for town center are not going to be the same as the C1, you know, along Dedham Street, Pine Street, and Pond Street, et cetera. So I completely agree. But so that's one thing that is up for consideration. The other, there are some things that inspect through, so you have a and propose to change. The other provision is actually sign area in terms of the amount of signage. So I worked through it with Bob today, and I think he's right. I think I need to do a little bit more work, so I want to make some tweaks to it in terms of sign area, to allow for, which if we go down to page, why don't we pause there, actually, on that one, before I
Which
jump.
number are you on, talking
Yeah,
about?
so I'm right there. And so basically 2. I'm at
Okay.
2 right there. I'll start there. If there is any questions, we can, and then Jen can chime in when she wants to, if there's anybody else out there.
If you guys don't mind me speaking, the reason why I wanted to even bring this up to the board is I did a SWOT analysis with Dean College, and they stated that my biggest weakness in my business is that you cannot see my building from far away. So despite everything that I've worked hard for, there's not that it needs to be anything extravagant, because I don't personally believe in that. But you cannot see my business from, and I've even had people say that you can't see it from the road. So at this point, with my black signage and the white windows and everything that I've worked hard for, you can't see it from even the sidewalk. So I just wanted to put that out there to you guys, as that was seen as a weakness from Dean College, as a SWOT analysis. So how can we help businesses in town to be strong and be able to be a strong business and give what we need to the town? And what can we do to help? We want to be respectful and kind in what we're trying to present, but how can we just grow that little bit?
I think that's great. Yes, fully agree that this is long overdue, and it's a tough topic, but we need to start somewhere. As Rich mentioned, we need to start, and we got to keep the ball rolling. And I think it's going to be one of those things where we make some changes now, and hopefully get those approved, and then see how that goes, and make some changes, continually. Now, that might go against what advisory board wants. They would probably want, well, give us a full-blown plan. We'll see what they say, but I don't think you can do that right now. I think You got to piece it
From my
in.
standpoint, I live, and not only do I live in town, I also own a business in town, so I think I'm different than most, you know? I care about the appeal, and I care about what I'm giving to the town, along with the, you know, the idea of a business. So how do we make sure that these businesses that are trying to thrive in town, and on top of that, you know, I decided to put a second business in town. I want to say this in the most respectful way, the real estate is more expensive. So how do we make it be enticing to everybody to want to build a home and a business in this town? So
Absolutely.
that's my standpoint.
Yeah, and I think, you know, to your point, I think that the hardest part is that we don't, if you're not working with bylaws and on a regular basis, it's, you know, you kind of pop in, pop out. It's not, you know, a whole plan. There is no plan. It's a constant dynamic thing. It's always changing, you know, so you try to do the best you can, but like, if you want, it's not that linear, essentially, right? So this time, but this is not a linear topic.
It's not. It's just we're going to need to, I can see it already. We'll need to explain this carefully to the advisory so they understand that we're making progress, and we don't know what the end result is going to be yet, because every town is different. Our town is unique from all the other towns, but we need to start moving forward.
Yeah, because I did, you know, again, I looked at, yeah, it is. I looked at some of the stuff that I've seen in Rentham, and they got some good things in there, but they also have some not so good things in terms of signage. So it's not one size fits all either.
No, it's not. And this is our first attempt at making the changes, and we see how that goes, and we, you know, in a couple years, maybe we make some more changes.
And this mechanism is, in terms of a business, you know, I'll take the business point of view on this, intent process, because you could be denied in the end. So you could make a significant amount of investment in time in a sign and be denied. So there is safeguards in terms of the, you know, from a town resident's perspective, if you want to look at it that way, but there is risks involved with it. Because there's many communities that, you know, this is not, you go into a building department and just pull a permit for a sign.
Well, yeah, it's not by right. This is
Not
by
by right.
special permit.
Yeah,
it's
so we're
gotta
not, we're not there yet.
No. Right.
But, and so that's one provision. The larger one is the size, you know, some of the signage that creates, you know, to allow for a little bit larger signage. So it's because in some cases you need a little bit larger sign area to have good signage that's readable for the intended user. So in many instances, this sign is really intended for motorists, right? It's not, some signs, obviously pedestrian is easier, but when you start to really drill down and make signs, you want to have something tasteful and sized appropriately. So again, the idea is to have a little bit more size with some of the signage to do it, not obscene amount of size. So again, the same thing. We did touch on it with earlier tonight, and I just want to go back and revisit. I might have over drafted in terms of talking to Bob today about the signage when we went through it. So what I want to do is, in terms of steps, this is the first night. We've got the meeting next week. I want to do a few more cuts of this. I'll send it out to Jen and have a little reiterative process before it's informed to send along to, you know, to the advisory and have a hearing. So we're a little bit earlier, but
this one is on a timetable, because we need to, if we decide that we want to move this forward, you know, we got to get our ducks in a row to get on the warrant.
And
I did send like some ideas of what we like to see, like tasteful, but also can be seen from the street. So like, I think in general, the people that I talked to, they all wanted something that was about small town, right? Something that you can see, that's tasteful, that's, it wasn't anything elaborate, you know, just like to be able to see it from the street at least. And I think that's sort of where the small businesses are at this moment.
Agreed.
Yeah, this was already in front of town meeting, right, with Bob's attempt, right? Like, that was last town meeting?
No.
Two town meetings ago?
It was, I think it was
last
the
one.
fall. I don't think it was,
fall.
wasn't May, it was the fall.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was the fall. So in terms of that, so I think it was a good intention in terms of like, all right, well, if, you know,
It just wasn't structured, right? So that was the,
well, it was, no, the idea was, okay,
It was prohibitive of everybody except for the town to put up signs.
for the town,
it was, okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So, in Bob's defense, there's a history of very, very conservativeness in terms of signage.
Oh, sure.
Come around something for public use, we might be able to do something in terms of, for businesses. As it turns out, it was the flip, which is the beauty of town meeting, right? You can't predict everything. It was like, well, it'd be great for the town. What about the businesses? So this is, in terms of these changes, it would be for both.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. So it's like, does this, like, is this like subcommittee material? Or like, you know, because I'm thinking about all these variables, like what's the natural equilibrium between size versus illumination, right? Like, you know, you don't have to go too big, you don't have to go too bright. There's like a middle ground, right, that probably works. And it probably goes district by district based off of sight lines and size of building and stuff like that. So there's, you know, there's going to be no town that we can poke through their bylaws and say we're going to steal that probably, right? This is very, very specific to what we're looking for.
If you guys have a few minutes, we did create like a very short thing that we could show you really quickly. Signs that like, I'm happy to pull that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Someone would enable me to share.
yeah, so Betsy's making a co-host.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the other thing. If it's special permit, it can't seem completely arbitrary, right? Like, oh, I know what Chad likes.
Be all
so I'm
set
gonna
to go,
present.
Jennifer.
Jen, you're muted
You're muted, just
for some reason.
Oh, I could have done it accidentally.
That's okay.
There we
I
go.
do like there being the idea of there being a permission, right? Because that is respectful and would allow everybody to do what is best for the town. I'm okay with that. And I think it was just the idea that it was never allowed.
Right.
That was difficult, you know?
Does the design review board only review buildings, or could they potentially get involved with this and maybe put together some guidelines?
They could.
Then maybe it would be a smoother conversation.
Would they
with
love us or
advisory.
hate us for that?
I mean,
These are
does it really matter?
What's that?
Let's hold the question and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, I think it's about change, right? About good change and positive change and being heard. I think that's where we feel. So does it really matter if somebody hates you or loves you, you know?
Oh, I was just the time considerations of the design board. That's all, you know, I was thinking about.
Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen and I can't.
I'm taking a quick look at the Norwood bylaws for signs, and the way they have things written seems pretty straightforward. There's a section on what type of display, the illumination, locations, who's providing permits,
Yeah.
all of that. I think this might be a good model. It goes a little bit more in depth. And then there's a section around non-conforming signs.
Yeah. And again, we would be more than happy to help, you know. You just need to let us know what we, as an organization, need to help to get into that right next step, you know.
Are you working on your presentation?
I cannot share. It says host disabled.
Betsy's looking at it.
Okay, no worries.
Let me see if,
You should be all set. Try that, Jennifer.
So just here are some of the examples of the signage that we had. This one is more like more colors, but these are very light and delicate, and we thought that they would, and you can see them from the street. Like, I think it would be a nice.
These are mostly backlit, right? That's, I think. That's
Yes,
why they're
all backlit,
aesthetically
nothing too much. For me, it was that I was expected to put all white on my, and you can't, now that the trees have grown in, you can't see it. So the different colors really help. So this is what we have now, like, for example. So some of the problems that we had was lack of lighting options. A tasteful backlit sign would do wonders for small businesses in town. Lack of color choices. The size was very difficult. Inability to market upcoming events. Wooded signage is expensive. So the price of a permit was sometimes more expensive than, which I think came to me and said that was very difficult.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just. I don't know. Sorry. You said. I don't know why I'm having trouble moving. That might be the end of the slide, but that's sort of our basic.
So what the town wanted though was like a LCD, like a backlit sign, right? Like
It wanted like
Internally illuminated.
Yeah, if we could just illuminate it even a little bit, it would make a huge difference. And I think
So-
we're not asking for a lot.
Right.
And I think that is where a lot of us have had issues, right? We're not asking for a lot, we're asking for little. So I think in talking to, like, becoming the president of the Small Business Association and talking to businesses, I think that is where the conversation is. Like, we're not asking for a ton. We're asking for you to help us in a small way. And I think that was it.
Yeah, I think, I can't speak for the whole board, but most of us are empathetic towards that. We're just trying to find, there's a lot of variables to think through. Like, all right, let's allow internally lit thing, and then I think people are going to think like Hilltop Steakhouse. Like, oh my God, like you can't.
Which, to your point, is why the design guidelines would be great.
Yeah,
because we
exactly.
could say,
Exactly.
it won't be that.
Right, size versus amount of light. There's probably lumens that we can measure. Like we can get really into the weeds if we want to.
yes.
Now, the scale of this, right? So in terms of internally illuminated, the design guidelines help, but it depends what weight they'll have, right? So their guidelines this is the heavy approach, right? Because this is, if you have design guidelines, you could say no. So you could, I guess I'm trying to figure out, this is kind of an old problem that's been around for a long time. And so I don't know what pace, I think, to Jennifer's point, I think they wanted to have it done yesterday, actually, right?
Fair enough.
No, I
Makes sense.
agree, yeah.
So I'm not sure how to approach it in an expeditious way and do it well, because when you start getting design lines, then you start to interject all these different opinions about it, what's good, what's bad, and then you have the problem.
Let's rephrase it from design guidelines, which seems very formal and official, to examples.
Yes.
I mean, it's not even a thing about examples. It's more about standards. I mean, without having to go the whole design guide route, I really recommend looking at the Norwood bylaws again. It's section 6.2 of their bylaws, page 43. They go very into good detail about the types of signs, locations, illuminations, types, locations in different districts. I think this is really a great example of what we should be striving towards from a bylaw perspective with regards to signs. And then there's even a little diagram with regards to, how large monuments need to be with regards to setbacks and angles of viewing, things like that. So without being able to, show this and have everybody review it, I think that's probably a good start for us.
Okay.
So from a heartwarming stance, actually grew up in Norwood, and we moved here because we felt like Norfolk was a little bit of Norwood. You know, we felt like it was a small town with a big heart, and that's why I wanted to have a business here, and that's why I wanted to have have my family here. So I think, I mean, from a heartfelt stance, that's why I did everything that I did, so.
I came from Norwood as well, and I always appreciated that it didn't feel like a big city there. It still feels quaint, especially around the Town Hill area that they have. I think it's a good example.
Agreed.
I wonder what the businesses feel there with that current signed bylaw, if that's too prescriptive or if it's
As long as we can do something, we are happy. I mean, I don't think that's what you're understanding is when I talk to the small businesses, we chose Norfolk because it's hard, because it's in a beautiful town, and we feel like we're doing something good, you know, and I think if you just help us in the littlest bit to make it easier to grow our business, we're gonna be more than happy.
All right,
So
because right
even
now
that
it's,
little inch is gonna mean so much to us, and I think that's why I'm so proud to be a member of the Norfolk Small Business Association. So that's what I'm trying to throw across to you guys is that we don't care, even if it's small, we'll take it, and even if like we care just as much about the town as you do. We do not want big business to move into here, just as much as you don't. So. We want to keep the town what it is. And if you'll help us just the smallest amount to grow and make sure that our business continues to flourish, we're happy to take whatever you'll give us. So that's what today that I wanted to throw across to you guys.
yep, I think,
we want to be able to help.
yeah, I think we're in agreement here on the board that, yes, because right now it's a no, and we need to change that to be a maybe.
A yes with an
A yes
asterisk.
thought.
A yes with a maybe, maybe with a yes or something. But
Yes, with a special permit.
yes, a yes with a special permit. That's
Yeah, I
Better
agree.
said.
A yes with the special permit, and we would be more than happy with that. Like, just something to let us know that you want us here, and that us trying our best is enough, you know?
right. Okay.
So I think I'll take a peek at Norwood, see what they have.
So what are the next steps, Rich? We have a meeting or workshop / meeting next week,
Yeah, on the 19th.
right?
Well, I think we should include it again. That would be on that. We can
Yes.
do it as part of that meeting as well.
Okay.
Retouch this topic, because that's just specific to the zoning, so,
Yep.
we can have additional discussion on it. So I'll take a peek at Norwood.
And
see.
the goal, if I understand, the goal would be to try and get this something to town meeting, fall town meeting, to get on the warrant. So what's the deadline for that if we're trying to achieve that as a goal?
So, as I understand it, I don't know if the agenda's posted, but I believe they're, voting. Yeah, Thursday night to open the warrant. So what I will do, so we do, some of you know or may not know, we don't have a town administrator presently.
I know. Yeah.
Nor do we have an interim town administrator right now, so I'll have to email the chair of the select board and figure out, I don't know, I don't have the answer in terms of, it's a new, I've never been in this position in
Yeah.
27 years doing this, in terms of, having some way to kind of go through this, so, I'll email our copy tomorrow and see in terms of, we'll submit it to the office but in terms of the next step, is getting to the advisory board with Jen and so forth and have that so there was a whole process where I could kind of figure this all out.
Right.
I don't know what it is. I don't have the answer right now, which is kind of challenging.
But we'll still keep moving forward.
But we're going to keep moving forward.
Okay.
And I think ideally, this topic is something that I would love to have the advisory board have it on their agenda so that you, as the board, can come in and have a discussion before, as you're getting ready to do the bylaw, this is, and talk about it. And so I'm hoping that we can get for them before you have to have a public hearing.
Right.
Right? Yep. So, you submit the article to town meeting warrant, and we've done these before, where you have a placeholder, and you can work on the language, and then make some adjustments if necessary. But, that discussion should happen. I would hope it would like to happen, so with the advisory board, so they understand it, and they hear from Jen and other businesses in town.
Yeah, we can, similar approach to what we worked on in Bylaws, right? We just, we get it on the warrant, we work out the final details. We get materials out to explain what the heck it is, right? Really simple, one-page slide. Remember that video we did? We do that with town businesses.
That's right, we did do that. Yeah, right. Forgot about that.
That stuff helps, so.
It did, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, whatever you guys need, we're here for. So just let me know, and we're there.
Great, we will definitely reach out, because instead of we'll definitely reach out, because we'll need to get more examples and ideas and from you as well. Absolutely. So, no, I really appreciate you coming to us and taking the time to kind of spearhead this and coordinate it and bring it to us.
Especially during your vacation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Any other final comments, Jen?
No, I just have to say that it has, especially during COVID, I learned a lot about, and I think that we need to all be there for each other, and the town needs to be there for the businesses, and we need to build a stronger camaraderie, right? Because that's what makes Norfolk, Norfolk. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything, and we're here if you need us, and we're ready to build whatever the town is becoming, so.
Well said. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this before we move on? Okay.
So, all right, so on the agenda. All right, so I did mention we'll be talking about table allowable uses next week. We'll go through that with Bob. In terms of, so I'm going to shift down to, let's see, how he is on there, okay. So Mark is there. There are streets potentially for street acceptance for the fall. I sent out, so Pulte had petitioned the select board, if you recall, to get the streets in Fox Run accepted as public ways.
Yep.
So they've submitted the petition letter to the select board. What I want to do is I'll send a letter. Again, I'll send it to the chair of the select board to let them know that the streets within Fox Run. There's a Redwood Circle that have been in touch with the developer in terms of, again, submitting that road was completed to get accepted as a public way. There is discussion, we'll see where we're at, is Canterbury has been out quite a long time, which hasn't been accepted as a public way. And then I'm trying to think if there's one more road trying to escape me, but basically give a alert the select board about these upcoming streets for the fall town meeting. Pulte, in terms of already submitted the petition letter, the as-built plans, some of the easement documents, so they're much further along in terms of the documents that we need. They are doing the videoing August 7th, I think it was. Let's see what it says. So in terms of that second phase with the stormwater drainage completion, so be doing the video August 7th, right? What did I put that?
And then Beta needs to review it.
And Beta needs review as well as DPW, so hopefully, so the lining that was done before worked.
Yep.
It was supposed to do in the first round of it, so this is the second group of storm drains that are being lined for, to deal with the leakage of damage to the pipes. So provided everything's in order, then we're moving on to get the street accepted, as you remember. And I'll put in the packet for the next meeting some of the other documents before. There was a memorandum of agreement between Pulte in terms of, set the benchmark that, okay, all these other things have been done. It's taken time to get to this point, but we don't keep going back to the same point in time and say, well, we've been out here a while. And in terms of issues.
There was some language in that memo that said something to the effect that everything else was accepted.
Correct.
Except
to get that done too, actually.
And I think John just sent an email too about Keeney Pond. He wanted to.
Well, his has already been accepted. Now it's.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so that was one that was accepted.
That was weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a strange one. That was
a little bit different situation. So this is just closing it out. But so in any event, those roads are up, will be up for acceptance, and so just that's a heads up for you. But on behalf of you, I'll send it to the select board. Let them know. Be aware these are out there, potential streets. We switch gears to, you'll look at the minutes when I'm done. I'll wrap up pretty soon here. In terms of the housing, so the wastewater treatment plant for Norfolk Town Center, the drillers have been stuck on another job, so they haven't been out there to do the borings yet. So I was hoping it was going to be today. That didn't happen, so I'm just waiting. So just once they finish their other job, they'll be here to do the boring tests, which are coming shortly. But in terms of that, so in terms of the master plan, we got 0 proposals back.
That's just because everybody has so much work to do.
Apparently.
Not because they don't like us as a town.
So I would presume that would be the case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to some of the ones. So so in terms of the procurement process, send out the RFP, I kept track, and I could send them to you in terms of who requested the RFP. And so I'm going to go back to some of the ones that requested and say, hey, was there something in this RFP? What prevented you from submitting a proposal?
Right.
To try to figure out what the issue, if there is an issue, because we got 0. There wasn't that many who've done quite a bit of work. There's people outside the state. There's people in New York. There's Texas. I mean, not to say they couldn't do the job, but they didn't submit a proposal, so it's kind of irrelevant. But so I need to kind of do a little more homework to report back to you. But so we have 0 right now. So we're.
And MAPC is doing the master plan for Rentham. Is that?
So MAPC is doing the master plan for Rentham.
Okay.
They're currently doing the master plan for the town of Dedham as well. So they have done master plans for other towns. In terms of them submitting a proposal for us, it didn't work in the timing because we're up against the end of fiscal year. So they just didn't have the staff time to put a proposal out to the town of Norfolk. They are potentially interested. I need to know, so my understanding is that as a regional planning agency, they come under a different umbrella in terms of procurement. So may not need to go through, if they submit it to an RFP, they submit it to an RFP process. They may not need to go through that process with them if that makes sense to do that. But I need to see that in writing from their attorney and then review that with our procurement folks and town council first. So I need to get back to you on that to see if that's possible. Then I would say the next step would be to have them in to have a discussion about it, to get a sense of, the capacity and how it worked, to get a feel. if that's a route we want to go. I think it's worth putting on there, you know? If I can, I can, you know? See what I get for response. Why
I
not?
mean, even if you got
Yeah.
some update,
Yeah.
would be, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I spoke to Josh Fiala, MAPC today, who's working on the Southwood planning study for us. And he is the one that mentioned to me about the procurement stuff. He was gonna get to his council for them to give me what I need to have us take a look at, our council, to see if that can be done. I'm not, you know, it's not something I'm aware of. I mean, it could be, I don't know, but,
Did you get responses that they were not bidding or just not?
zero response. I got.
They didn't have to submit something back that said
No.
not formally.
No.
accepted.
So how many people,
There was 12.
12 people requested it?
12 companies.
You sent it out,
Yeah.
and then got no questions, nothing?
No questions,
Wow.
no.
That's weird. Yeah, I think it'd be good to, like you said, ask a handful of them to why they didn't submit. Is there something, is there an issue with the RFP?
What was the deadline?
July 7th. No, fine, you know.
Maybe everybody's just so busy.
That's gotta be it.
No, there is, there probably is some truth in that, really.
I'm just joking. That's honestly what I believe.
I mean, there might be.
I don't think that's, so in terms of, you know, it's very possible that could be.
Well, let's find out.
But I'll find out. I'll say, hey, you know.
We could speculate all night. Let's find
Yeah,
out.
I'm not gonna speculate. I'll find out. Because the budget wasn't terrible. It was a good budget.
Yep.
You know?
I thought so, yeah.
So, I mean, I looked at I'm aware of other budgets out there, so it wasn't like, so anyway, let me see. I'll report back.
Make some calls, find
Yeah.
out, also find out about MAPC, what they're talking about, and
Yeah.
if that's even possible.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
So
Okay.
transition down to Southwood in terms of up the, to the survey.
Oh.
So, you know, we put the survey out on the town website and directed folks to it to take it, so we end up with 400. So
That's good.
that's a much better,
Other than 12 in person.
better than 12 in person, right.
Right.
And so now he's gonna go through and compile the data so we can see what the results of it were. I mean, the nice thing about that survey at least is, you know, you self-identify, are you a resident, or are you know, business, so you kind of get a sense, you know, who people are. We'll take them in faith that they honestly respond back, their affiliation or not.
Right.
So it gets it, so it's a good, in terms of response. So he's gonna shut it down at the end of the week, I think, you know.
Okay.
I think it's been out there a pretty good amount of time, because actually that was June 6th, so it's been running pretty much almost a month, so. And then we have talked about the zoning bylaws. I'll get a better update in terms of from the select board and process and how they wanna.
So as regarding the zoning bylaws, we got the signs, which we talked about. Are there any other?
So the table.
Well, correct, yes, correct. The table, the sign, well, we don't have to do the other thing we talked about with the E-code is not part of this.
No, that's outside. That's under your direction.
Yeah, that's something different. But that's it then, really, I mean.
For now.
Those two things
Yeah.
for now.
Yep, for now.
Just,
What about the follow-up item from town meeting about corner lots?
yeah, there was that, did Bob have a chance to look at that? You're right, that was a follow-up item. On
I
how
did,
we-
yeah.
how
In his
we-
opinion, he doesn't think it's broken, honestly, so I think it's interpretation.
I would disagree with that.
I will
For sure.
You could disagree with it, but I will say just in executing the work plan for everything we got on the table, I'm not sure it rises to the level to put a lot of effort into that right now. Well, I'm not saying we don't.
I'd be willing to defer it, but yeah, I think we should still move forward with it at some point. Maybe fall meeting's not the right one and get these other
Yeah.
things done, but I don't want it to fall off the table at all.
Right.
There was a few, was there any others? I think that was, You had a running list at
Yeah, I
one
did. I
time.
mean, I still think we need to kind of revisit the solar bylaw itself.
Okay.
Not to go too far afield, but I'm really, as a planner, not really particularly, I think something's amiss, actually, quite frankly, in terms of the whole environmental landscape in this, in terms of kind of solar, that we're cutting down acres of woodland area to put in,
Put panels up.
to put panels up.
Right.
No, something doesn't feel right about that. And the directives from the top is to give solar so many latitude, if you will.
Most
right?
states have, basically, when you throw solar in there, all the rules go away. It's like, you want solar? Okay, we'll ignore all these bylaws because it's solar. Or anything to do with that. Green energy.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand what you're saying.
yeah. It just doesn't.
It does seem kind of counterproductive to cut down all the trees that keep our air clean and the
Yeah, so,
environment.
at the same time, we're, donating to organizations to plant trees and reforest, and then, like, I think it would seem like, okay, dirty sites, hazardous waste sites, right? Impervious areas, yep. Rooftops, yep. But there should be some scaling. It feels like it's really been, as you know, right? There's like a little bit of a, whatever you want to call it. So,
What,
and I'm concerned about it because we don't, anyway,
yeah.
feel kind of handicapped, frankly, with this topic, so.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure how much we can do to
No, I'm not sure.
limit or restrict it, because like I said, I haven't looked at what Massachusetts has, but I know a lot of states do have
Yeah.
guidelines in there that the solar or whatever the green energy is takes precedence over everything. You can just
Like
do
the
it.
40B of energy.
Yes, it's a good example, yes.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. It's a 40
Yeah.
B of energy, and we're just doing it.
Right.
Not, yeah, so. But that is one that I think
Okay.
still does need to be changed in terms of, yeah.
Not by fall, though.
I don't know if we'll get it done by fall.
Yeah.
We got a lot of other things that need to get wrapped up, but that's something we need to start thinking about on how to, and maybe once the new E-code gets published and everything gets moved around, that might be the appropriate time to start looking at it and go, okay, what things are we going to change here, tweak it,
Yeah, in terms
and
of content,
bring it to spring.
Because I want to give you some bandwidth too to, we're going to probably be ramping up again towards the fall in terms of Southwood. So,
Yeah.
you've got your permitting things that we need to talk about, and
Right.
you got to,
Okay.
I was hoping we were going to be doing master plan too, so that would have also required a good amount of time from you.
I know.
as well. So, but anyway,
Okay.
so that's it for tonight. That was on my list.
My watch is telling me I need to stand up. Okay, thank you. So that's the town planner updates. So you want to circle back then to the on-street, or do you want to do the meeting minutes?
Did you have a chance to take a look at the, we uploaded the plans on the server. Did you,
This is the Pond Street Solar
On-street solar.
with the colors.
The key map, the locus map.
yeah, okay.
It's bright spot of my day. Through it and
Really?
lots of color.
All right.
I'm in management consulting. This is the best we get. I mean,
Colors.
Wow. Oh, yeah, I guess there is a color. I see. The locus map?
yes.
Yeah, the locus map is all colorful. Green, pink, a little blue.
All right, gotcha. All right. Well, it was quite a bit of discussion in terms of the revision, so I want to be,
So they revised that setback on Pond Street in the north, well, I guess it'd be in the upper left part of the,
Correct.
what's that sheet number? Where's my Zoom? Why did this come up so far?
You download it.
Yeah, so that's sheet number 5 of 14.
It looks like they're also putting cypress in at that little cut-in.
Is that what's called out? Yeah, so, I mean, I remember looking at all this in very much detail prior to the revisions, so these are now the revisions, so they're planting, yep, I see that, cypress.
Where are you seeing that? The cypress, oh, okay, there's a tree.
So in that,
That was one.
yeah, that little driveway entrance, or whatever you want to call it, that we're eliminating, they're planting some trees there.
Partially eliminating.
But correct. I know. I know where you're getting, guys. It would be nice if the DPW would come in and just finish it, but I don't know if it will ever happen. So we're putting in 7.
No, that point was in that northwest corner.
It was in that corner, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
That's,
I would just ask you to endorse it.
okay,
Or, well, you'll sign the plan.
right.
Do you need a motion?
You don't
or-
need a motion or anything, because we,
No, but I mean, it was particularly,
just to discuss.
yeah.
It was on the agenda to discuss.
Yeah, just so you, because I needed to sign it, I wanted you to see it, because it was,
Yep. Page at the PDF shows the grading. Yeah. That shows the grading plan, and if you zoom in on that north, or I guess it's the northwest
Which
corner.
page?
Page 9 shows,
Okay.
page 9 shows the grading with how it's moved back and the impact. So we're not impacting that stone wall at all. In fact, it's quite a bit away from that wall.
It's a much steeper grade now, too.
I think it was always like that.
It was much more rolling, so to speak.
Was
It
it?
was softer to the 245.
Could be. It's not as steep as the south side of that pad.
Right, but south side is pretty sheer.
But again, it
That
looks
goes up.
it looks like what we had discussed.
I'm satisfied.
Procedurally, can I sign those without having been part of the decision, or no?
you're just, because you're just signing, it's an administrative function
Yeah.
that you're signing the plan, you're not,
Not a decision.
Because the decision was
the decision was already.
done.
Yeah.
We've already voted.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other comments? I mean, it looks like what we'd requested.
Yep.
See, they're clear cut and all that and regrading.
Yeah. Yeah, this is,
I don't know. That's a topic for another discussion for another day.
I don't know, it's just, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Next item is meeting minutes. So that would be Eric as the clerk to make make a motion for
Make a motion to approve meeting minutes of 6:14 as presented.
Seconded.
We'll do a roll call vote. Chris?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. John is absent for the vote, just for the record.
Is that it?
Well, so meeting schedule, our next meet, well, we do have this.
Tuesday.
We have a workshop / meeting Tuesday.
Yeah.
Then
August 30th. yeah.
Then we have the August 30th meeting, September 13th. And then the October 11th, my plans have changed, so I'll probably be in town now.
Okay.
So,
Plans have changed, all right. Does anybody else have,
it's life. Things change sometimes.
right. Did we change November? Yeah.
November is on the 8th. Was there a conflict?
Is that,
Yeah.
Is that town meeting?
is that the election?
Or is that election?
I think it's the election.
It's election day.
Oh,
It is.
okay. So do you have a recommendation? I mean, do you push it back a week to the 15th? I would recommend not the 22nd because that's Thanksgiving week and
Spread. What the document, I think it's 650 pages worth of
Holy smokes.
data that just came out, and all the findings from, what's known, so. I don't know if you can post that to the Southwood Hospital folder.
Yeah.
Jimmy? I don't think it's
post
on there yet.
I can do that. Yeah.
it was interesting that if I recall seeing the highlights, there was no radiation.
No,
found,
there is.
Which is really good.
No, it's the opposite.
Right.
What's the opposite of radiation?
No, they did find radiation.
Oh, they did. Okay.
There's a whole separate report about radiation at the back of that.
I missed that part of it then.
So it's chemical contamination
It's chemical
and
and-
radiation. Oh.
Okay.
Well, they knew there was radiation there already.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
My understanding is that there wasn't radiation found in the building, so.
Correct.
That's
Outside in the
yes.
wastewater.
Right.
But in the waste, yes. Yep.
Which is pretty positive, good news in terms of not in the building,
True.
because that was,
Yep.
I know there was significant concern that it was also in the building.
That's true.
So somewhat positive news. So yeah, we could.
So I think there's a request for the applicant to have a PIP meeting and go over their findings. A
Yeah.
public meeting.
Yeah, I think the email chain I saw was, they're trying to schedule a PIP meeting for early August. Is that right?
Yes, so the PIP meeting, it looks like, I think it's the 4th of August.
Okay.
So you're welcome.
But that's open to anybody in town.
That's open to anybody, yeah.
Okay, so, all right.
Yeah, so you can,
As soon as you find out when it's, I guess, how does that everybody get posted on that or notified of that?
so that's something,
The PIP group's got to take care of.
no, the GFI does that,
Okay.
yeah. They have- So we will put it on the town website,
Okay.
but I just saw an email this afternoon, I think at some point, I think August 4th is gonna be the.
That's what I saw too.
Right, and it was just asking for extension on the time to comment, I think, if I recall correctly, from the PIP
That's
group.
right. Yeah, the PIP group asked for an extension to comment until August 21st because the meeting's going to be so delayed.
Yeah,
And that they were just given all this material recently and something about the addendum wasn't complete with the material.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
and the extent of the
Oh, yeah.
report, the document,
Knowledge.
to go through, so. We're not gonna talk about it tonight because it's not on the agenda, but I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna- No, I have another thought, sorry.
Oh, okay.
So housing production plan, just remember that? I'll put it on for Tuesday night and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. So if we want to attend this, we should put a placeholder on our calendars for the August 4th.
Yes.
If we planned it to attend this, the pit meeting. I'm circling back. to this,
Virtually.
Sorry. Yeah, it's virtual. It's probably Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's easy. Yeah, well, where am I? Oh, I'm at the Cape. I'll tell.
Let's see, you still can do that.
Yeah, cool.
It's somewhat relevant is, so they did vote to extend remote. The legislature did vote to extend it past. What's today?
Today's.
Are they still planning a date?
Yeah, so we got, I want to drill down, I will say, but, and then, I'll double check the details, but if you have hybrid functionality to the meetings like we do here, it can go to the end of 2023.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I'll get the dust to settle on, I'll send it to everybody, but they did extend it, so,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Okay.
So that was, and we're already ahead of the game that we have.
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of towns are actually that way. I mean, the smaller ones, obviously, I'm sure that's more challenging for them to do that, but, yeah, so that was good news.
Okay. Any other new business?
One thing I'll mention before we close is, since I'm the liaison to CPC, their meeting's tomorrow night. I plan on being there in person, 7:30, so.
Okay. Great.
Is it in person?
I'll figure it out. I don't know. Yeah, Room 124 and Zoom.
Look at that.
Oh, wow, all right.
Hybrid.
I think they moved.
Making me
okay.
doubt myself.
I know they moved to the, hybrid.
Yep,
Excellent.
I'll do my duty.
All right. Excellent. All right. Any other new business? All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Chris.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.